Hi, I'm Tommy Thompson and welcome to AI 101, the series that explores the tools and techniques used in video game development. The opening episodes of this series have taken a look at some of the long-established AI methodologies used in video games, with navigation meshes and finite state machines being two of the earliest techniques to become commonplace. In the second episode, I looked at behaviour trees, a technique popularised by the Halo franchise in the mid-2000s that has since arguably become the most commonly used method for controlling non-player characters in the AAA games industry. In this episode, we take a look at the other technique that achieved popularity at the same time, and in keeping with the channel recently reaching 100,000 subscribers, thank you all so much by the way, you're friggin' awesome, what better time to return to the technology and the game where AI in games began. Let's take a look at goal-oriented action planning and the game that popularised it, First Encounter Assault Recon. To understand goal-oriented action planning, and in turn how it's used in F.E.A.R and many other games, we need to take a look at the theory from which it derives from, an existing AI technology known as automated planning. Automated planning, or AI planning, is a process whereby a system attempts to figure out a sequence of actions that will achieve a distant goal set upon it by a designer. This set of actions is then called a plan. To do this, we model the problem in some sort of language or encoding that tells us all the information that can be true about the world at any given time. These are known as facts or predicates, where a simple fact tells us something we might need to know at a later point in time. We store all of the predicates we have about how the world looks like at any point in time within what's known as a state. For example, here's a door. We'll call it Door 1, because it's important to give the door a name, and this door is closed. But I might want a non-player character to open Door 1 at some point in the future, so I need to know in a predicate whether it's open or closed, because opening a door that's already open is kinda stupid. So the current state of our world is one closed door. Now, given I have this information, I can build an action that allows me to open it. Each planning action is usually broken up into three parts: the items that are involved in the action, in this case a door because we want to open it, the action's preconditions, meaning what facts of the world must be true before I can apply the action, and the effects, which represent how the world changes as a result of completing the action. The effects of an action adds new information to the world state, as well as possibly deleting existing facts that are no longer true. So say I want my non-player character to open Door 1, some valid preconditions for an open door action would be that the door is closed and that the non-player character is standing in the same room as the door. Once the action is completed, the effect would be that the door is now open. Now say we wanted to walk our character from room A to room B, but the door between them is closed. We would need to make sure in our planning model that we explain that Door 1 connects room A to room B, and that you cannot walk between rooms if there is a closed door, at which point the system will create a plan, which is to open the door and then walk from room A to B, changing the state of the world to where the NPC is now in room B. In a nutshell, this is what planning is all about, figuring out what to do and in what order to do it. This process of encoding problems and allowing for planning systems to solve them is why it has been an active and developing research field for decades. While F.E.A.R helped bring planning to games in 2005, planning has previously been used in a variety of real-world logistics problems as far back as the 1970s. This includes problems such as robotics, ranging from smaller home-based devices to the likes of the Lunar and Mars rovers, control of large-scale mechanical systems such as wind turbines, power stations and manufacturing, and in complex spatial problems such as search and rescue operations, military planning and disaster relief. But my explanation hides some of the nastier details underneath. These planning encodings rely on humans being able to abstract the problem we're solving into something simple for a planner to solve. Returning to that door opening problem, I said that the NPC needs to be in room A and that Door 1 connects the two rooms. This works fine in a planning model, but there's a bunch of discrepancies between the model and how that would work in real life or even in a video game. For example, where in room A is the door to room B? What direction does the NPC need to move towards the door? In fact, in the planning model, the NPC can open the door if they're in a room that the door connects to, meaning this wee fella is now apparently telekinetic and can open doors with their mind from very far away? This is in contrast to a more realistic interpretation, which is that not only does the NPC need to be in room A, but it also needs to be standing right next to Door 1 in order to open it. Hence, while planning is great for solving the larger problem of what to do in a given situation, executing the plan of action in the world, be it in the real world or in a video game, is a lot harder. So now that we know what planning is and how it works, let's take a look at goal-oriented action planning and how it brings AI planning to video games. Goal-oriented action planning, or GOAP for short, adapts what is known as STRIPS planning, the Stanford Research Institute problem solver, a planning system from 1971 for use in video games. Leading development on this project was Dr. Jeff Orkin, the AI lead for Monolith Productions on both 2002's No One Lives Forever 2 and 2005's F.E.A.R, where GOAP was first implemented. As detailed in Orkin's 2006 publication at the Game Developers Conference while studying his PhD at the MIT Media Lab, the GOAP system is driven by a finite state machine. As detailed back in episode 3 of AI 101, a finite state machine is a system whereby an AI exists within one state of behaviour and then based on an event occurring will transition into another one. As we explored how FSMs are adopted in Half-Life, we found that there was over 80 unique states that existed in the game's codebase. Although whether that state was available was determined by the type of character that the state machine was controlling. However, here in GOAP, the finite state machine has only 3 states: moving into a position in the world, playing an animation, or interacting with what is known as a smart object, an item in the world that AI characters can communicate with. Now, you might be a little confused how this works, but it's all based on a really clever observation of how non-player character AI works. If you consider an AI in a game, be it the headcrabs in Half-Life, the elites in Halo, or even the xenomorph in Alien Isolation, all they do is play animations in very specific circumstances. It's when that animation is played in the right place at the right time, it appears clever, and when several clever animations are played in a sequence, it appears intelligent. Hence, each of these 3 states within the GOAP FSM is ultimately playing an animation. Go-To is playing a movement animation, be it walking, running, jumping, diving, or climbing, but it's also heading to a specific location. Animate is simply playing an animation. This could be acknowledging the player's presence to shooting their weapon, or any simple idle animation which would give this NPC a bit more character. And lastly, use Smart Object, which is a situation such as having an NPC hit a switch, open a door, sit in a chair, or knock a table over. In each case, the animation is tied directly to the object, and quite often in games, such as that found in my episode on the AI of Bioshock Infinite, the object will tell the character's animation system what it needs to do. So, instead of a more grounded state machine where each possible behaviour is enumerated as a separate state, the whole thing is executed in a much smaller and highly data-driven implementation. It will execute specific movement actions and animations that are passed into the system, and if several movement, animation, and smart object states are executed in the correct sequence, we'll get some smart-looking behaviour. But how does it know what states to be in what order should it go through them, and what information is to be passed into each state? Well, that's where the planning part of GOAP kicks in. Using a planning encoding like we talked about before, the system creates plans that solve specific problems in the planning encoding and uses A* search to find the best actions to take in solving the problem. The actions within the resulting plan are then translated into specific FSM states, with data being passed, such as locations to move towards, animations to play, and smart objects to interact with. To better understand how this works in practice, let's crack open the hood of F.E.A.R and explore how GOAP is adopted within the game. So let's take a deeper look at how GOAP is applied in F.E.A.R. Portions of the game's C++ codebase have been publicly available for some years now, first with the original F.E.A.R SDK being released by Monolith, followed by the F.E.A.R public tools as modders have continued support for it. And with very little effort, you can crack it open in Visual Studio and read through the AI source code. So let's walk through how GOAP is applied within the codebase, and for those wanting to try their hand themselves, I've left links in the description for you to check out. Each AI character in F.E.A.R that has any sort of AI needs to have goals assigned to it. These goals are ones that the planner will run a search through the action space in order to find a plan of action for that character to execute. This applies to all active non-player characters in the game, from the soldiers and assassins to the nightmare spectres at the end of the game, and even the rats that are running around on the ground, which is a super important point I'll come back to in a minute. This means that the other characters, such as Jin Sung Kwan and Jankowski, and even Alma herself, are all scripted by designers. Without a goal, the AI characters will do literally nothing. They need to be given goals to accomplish, which the planning system will aim to resolve. There are just shy of 70 goals encoded within the game's files. In each case, these goals can be initialized, updated and terminated, and more critically, have functions that allow for them to calculate their overall priority at that point of time in the game. So for example, if a soldier has been assigned the patrol and kill enemy goals, but it has no knowledge of the player being nearby, then kill enemy will have a priority of 0, while patrol has a much higher priority given there is a patrol node that's been assigned to that character. However, in the event that it has knowledge of the player being nearby, the patrol goal will have a much lower priority, given it recognises that the player is now a threat to it. Now, in order for the planner to solve that goal, the character will have a collection of actions available to it that it can search through. There are 120 actions in the game, ranging from simple animations to different attack variants, moving to locations, using smart object nodes, reloading weapons, or just standing idle, all of which have their own corresponding C++ classes. The actions are set up in code, but not all NPCs have access to all actions. The game's designers use a separate database editor to assign specific actions to each enemy type, allowing them to customize just how versatile that character will be in solving their goals. With a goal assigned to a given character, it will await a chance to access the planner and find a solution to its current situation. This is where the larger issues I hinted at earlier in the video come to light. The system needs to find actions that this particular character can execute, search through the possible actions within the state space, find a plan that reaches the goal, but all of this needs to be revalidated against the game during execution. This is because something can happen either during planning time or when executing the plan that can break it. Returning to my door example from earlier, if you're generating a plan to open the door and move between rooms, but during the planning process or as you're executing it, the door is opened by someone or something else, it will then invalidate that plan. This is an issue that the vast majority of planning systems face, in that they're rather existential in nature and assume that only the planner can change the world, so it can't accommodate for other characters doing stuff in the world as part of the plan. In fact, as mentioned in the original F.E.A.R video, none of the enemy AI in F.E.A.R know that each other exists, and cooperative behaviours are simply two AI characters being given goals that line up nicely to create what looks like coordinated behaviours when executed. Not only are they unable to walk towards navigation points in the world where other characters are standing, but have zero knowledge of that character's existence. Hence, if another character does something that would break the proposed plan, then each character needs to be able to recognise that, so it stops what it's doing and it asks for another plan, or even change the goal if necessary. This is handled in 3 different ways. Firstly, once a plan is devised, the system will then run a quick validation check. It takes a copy of the current game state, executes the plan on that copy, and ensures it will satisfy the goals as intended, with each action's preconditions and effects working as hoped. Secondly, each goal can override the replan required function, which continually checks whether the current plan should be abandoned and a replacement one be retrieved from the planner. A good example of this is when an enemy character is shot while executing a plan to satisfy the kill enemy goal. However, this is only allowed in the event the character is not executing an animation that cannot be interrupted. Lastly, each action in the plan needs to be validated again during execution, with preconditions and effects being checked. In the event they are not satisfied as intended, the system will bail out the plan and force a replan to occur. However, if that action is going to work as intended, the action is activated in the codebase. When that happens, it tells the finite state machine which of the 3 states to transition into, and passes over all of the data it needs to complete the finite state machine's execution. So, say for example, a soldier needs to reload their weapon, then it transitions into the animate state and passes in the specific animation parameters that are needed so that the character will reload their gun. Once an AI character completes their devised plan successfully, it will then be assigned a new goal and can plan again. By managing both when plans succeed as well as when they fail, this helps maintain the pace of the game, ensuring the AI always knows what to do and don't stand around idle waiting to be slow-mo shot in the face. In truth, the length of plans in F.E.A.R are often rather short, typically 1 to 2 actions long, with only a handful ever reaching 3 or 4 actions in length. This largely makes sense given the overall pacing of the game. That said, this goal management and planning process does create a problem, one that even the developers at Monolith didn't know about for many years. As detailed in a 2014 research paper by Professor Eric Jacopin, in which he analyses the performance of the Goat planner in F.E.A.R, It's discovered that this process of continually replanning creates a small performance overhead in some levels of the game, thanks to the rats. The rats in F.E.A.R. are, as I mentioned, using the same system as the soldiers and other combat AI. Typically their plans are really simple. Move to another location in the world and preferably away from the player if they're nearby. The need for the rats to replan doesn't take into consideration whether the player is nearby. Hence, you can meet a couple of rats in the opening seconds of the level and they'll still be running around planning for new actions 20 minutes later while you're on the other side of the map. This is far from an exhaustive overview of the codebase, and I do encourage anyone who can work their way around C++ to have a read through the code. It's really insightful and rewarding for game developers to get their hands on. F.E.A.R's use of goal-oriented action planning is still held to this day as some of the most exciting and fun enemy opponents to come across in modern video games. And while it's now been almost 15 years since the game's release, Gulp has continued to have a lasting impact within the video games industry. While far from an exhaustive list, there are many highly popular games and even cult classics that have adopted the methodology or something similar to it. This includes the likes of Condemned Criminal Origins, Stalker Shadow of Chernobyl, Just Cause 2, Deus Ex Human Revolution, the 2013 reboot of Tomb Raider, and more recent titles by Monolith such as Middle-earth Shadow of Mordor and Shadow of War. There are other episodes of AI in games that have explored its applications, such as Transformers War for Cybertron in episode 14, as well as a heavily modified hybrid approach in Empire and Napoleon Total War back in episode 22. Planning is still a popular technique in video games, though arguably not as common as, say, behaviour trees. But over time, Gulp and its strip-style approach is now being adopted less frequently, with more contemporary titles adopting another planning technology known as Hierarchical Task Network, or HTN planning. HTN planning has been used in titles such as Killzone 2, Max Payne 3 and Dying Light. I'll be dedicating a future episode of AI 101 to this topic, but I've already covered the implementation of this planning method in detail for Transformers Fall of Cybertron, also in episode 14, and Horizon Zero Dawn, over in episode 37. But for now, I hope this helps everyone better understand not only why people continue to laud the AI of F.E.A.R, but also the underlying technology being adopted. I've listed some other useful resources on goal-oriented action planning in the video description for you to check out. Thanks for watching this episode of AI 101, and a special thank you to each and every one of you who has subscribed to and supported the channel. Breaking 100,000 subscribers is still relatively small by YouTube standards, but still much larger than I ever envisaged for AI in games. AI 101, alongside all my other series here on the channel, is crowdfunded over on Patreon. If you'd want to join our community and have a say in future episodes on the show, join the AI in Games Patreon using the links on screen and in the description. Stay safe, have fun, and I'll be back.
Pretty excited about this today because Take-Two actually reached out and gave me the opportunity to see the gameplay trailer for Mafia: The Old Country early. That's right, your boy is filming this a couple of days actually ahead of when they plan on officially revealing it at PAX. And that has allowed me to film this, offering my reactions to the trailer, which I wouldn't have been able to do before since I'm on vacation right now with my family. All the kids are in bed, the wife is chilling and taking a shower. So I am here vibing by myself. But here's the thing about vacations. Like, you go on a vacation, and if you're a gamer nerd like me, what like relaxes you is talking about video games. You want to like talk about games, play games, that type of thing. And like Disney World is great, but there's not a lot of video games in it. And like the people I'm here with, like my toddler, not that interested in video game talk. So this is my way of getting it out. Like relaxing in a weird way. And I need it because I can show you on my smartwatch. Today we walked an estimated 20, I don't know if you can see that, 27,000 steps. And my watch estimates that is roughly 13.6 1.09 miles. We walked a lot. So I'm ready to decompress and talk about games real quick. And this will be quick because the trailer itself is quick. But if you don't know me, I'm a big fan of Mafia, and I've always felt that the Mafia games are kind of an enigma because they're really good narratively. They have fantastic stories, the writing is really well done, and if you've never played Mafia Definitive Edition or Mafia 1 leading into Mafia 2, it's phenomenal. But the series has always struggled kind of in two ways. Number one, they've struggled with these like forced open worlds. You can tell that like the publishers told them, we need open worlds. Grand Theft Auto has an open world. You need an open world. And they just never really clicked, in my opinion. I mean, Mafia Definitive Edition being a recreation of a very, very old game is, of course, its own thing. But even if you look at Mafia 2 and certainly Mafia 3, they are big maps that are historically and artistically and musically interesting, but they don't have like a lot of gameplay dynamism. Like the open worlds are always the weakest part of Mafia games, and that therefore leads into conclusions that the gameplay is bad. And so it's always held it back. And that's interesting in the one aspect. But I think it also filters over into the structure and the narrative and how that's set up. So for example, Mafia 3, besides being really buggy and broken and having a lot of problems, probably as a result of the scope being too big, trying to make this big open world game when they just didn't have the resources to do it, leading to crunch and bugs and things like that. But I think also because they wanted to make it a big open world game, they then spaced out a very interesting story across like 20, 30 hours of gameplay tedium of going and completing hideouts and doing these things and collecting this and that. And it just didn't really work. And so when I found out that for one, they were making Mafia the Old Country, I was excited as somebody that likes the stories of these games and wants to see what they're doing as like a prequel kind of starter story. But then I also found out perhaps the most interesting thing that is shown off in this gameplay trailer that has gone live today. And that is that this game is not trying to do an open world. It's actually a linear story, and it's set up linearly. If you don't know, that just means like straight. Like they're not opening up a whole map to you saying, go do whatever. They have stuff they have specifically built for you to do. And I could see some people looking at that as like a maybe a downgrade or a step back. But I think, you know, if you're not going to do something well, you shouldn't do it at all. And with the Mafia games, I always thought that there were a lot of strong points and strong things that they did and were really good at. But I felt that there were a couple of other things that they were not good at. And the open world was the biggest thing of it. And so to see them pivot away from that excites me as a fan of the Mafia stories and kind of franchise, hoping that it could eventually become what it seems to be becoming, which is a more linear, carefully crafted cinematic series focused on the stories. And that's what we see in this gameplay trailer. Everything is very, very cinematic. I think it's also looking much more Uncharted than I was expecting. I mean, there's a reason why I used that comparison earlier, and it's because I think it's apt. I think it's trying to give levels that perhaps have some moments that open up, like the racing scene or other scenes where you see like, you know, the horse riding, where there might be large areas for you to play through in a given moment. But at its core, it's taking you on a journey through a story, and it's not trying to just give you a massive open world with 50 collectibles and 15 locations and POIs to synchronize. Like, they're just not doing that. And I think that that's really, really encouraging, because that was never their strong suit, and seeing them focus on just the things they are good at, that's good. I'm excited to see that. I still have some questions, like, for example, the gunplay. It's not really clear how exactly that will feel, because of course it's kind of a mixture of cinematics and then gameplay shots, so it's hard to say. But if you gauge based on their last project, Mafia Definitive Edition, it's probably going to be fine for a third-person game that has decent shooting. Like, that's probably what it is. Again, it's not really why you're playing these games. You're playing them for the stories. But I do think seeing little nods to previous games, like the racing sequence, that does get me excited personally. But beyond all of that, I think maybe the elephant in the room is like Hangar 13's track record, because what most people remember from Mafia is Mafia 3. I believe it was 2016 it came out, and it was, to be perfectly honest, a train wreck. I mean, it was totally busted and broken, rushed out, just, we've all seen the Krabby Cat video, I'm sure. Like, we have all seen it, and there's a reason we've seen it, and it's because it went viral for a reason. Because that game was a mess at launch. And even after it got fixed up and became playable for most people, it still wasn't a particularly great game. Like it had a really interesting story. It had some phenomenal music at launch, but it just didn't come together the way I think they wanted it to, for one reason or another. And, as the years went by, it didn't really get much better because that era, 2016, 15, 17, around that period of open world games were not phenomenal. Games had yet to really have time to take inspiration from games like The Witcher 3, for example. And so there was they were kind of holdovers from the previous era of open world design, very Ubisoft focused and styled with lots of collectathons and things like that. So it hasn't aged well in that regard. And then other things like the game you played back in 2016 is not the same game that you play today. If you download Mafia 3 right now, it's not the same game, primarily with the music. Like back when the game first launched, they had Elvis Presley music, really good music when you would just be driving down the streets listening to the radio in game. And that really helped it. That really made the game feel special. It's just to be driving through this fictional kind of New Orleans style city, and then you just turn on the radio and Elvis Presley is playing. It was really, really cool. But the music licenses expired. And so they had to cut all of that out of the game, which is a whole other topic, like music preservation or OST preservation in games with licensed music, where the license expires after 5 years, and so they have to cut it out and change the game that you bought. It seems weird to me that they can just do that. They can just alter the thing that you bought, but that's just me. But I do think Mafia 3 left, for many reasons, a bad taste in a lot of players' mouths and left them, I think, justifiably skeptical of the Mafia franchise in general. And so they're going to have that in the back of their minds when they look at Mafia: The Old Country. But I think it's important to also look at what is literally their most recent project, which is, of course, Mafia Definitive Edition, which was a from the ground up remake, rebuilding of a very old game at that point, 20 years old, close to it at least. And they did a phenomenal job on it. If you've not heard me gush about Mafia Definitive Edition, I don't know where you've been, because I do it a lot because I love Mafia Definitive Edition. It's one of my feel-good games. I just love those stories. I love presentation of it. I love the vibe. It's all just very, very well done. And for me, at least, when I played Mafia Definitive Edition, I was like, okay, they still got it. They could still do this. They could pull this off, because the presentation, the cinematics, all of that were so well done. And it gets me excited again. But again, I don't blame people if they're not that convinced by it. So I think that this trailer does a good job of showing a lot of promise. I'm excited as someone that likes Mafia a lot, but I do think they need to show extended gameplay. I do think they need a 10-minute gameplay sequence, because this isn't like a GTA 6 situation where they have a phenomenal track record and they literally never miss and everybody's sure that it's going to be awesome. It's not quite like that. This time around, they're going to have to be a lot more, I think, persuasive. And so I would encourage them to show a lot more, to do a gameplay deep dive that actually is more than just a gameplay trailer, actually show extended uncut gameplay. And I think that'll do a lot. But trailer looked good. I'm excited. And that's a good thing, to see a trailer and be more excited for the game than before you watch the trailer, which doesn't always happen. So thank you again to Take-Two and Hangar 13 for sending me the trailer early to check out. There's no sponsorship or anything on this. They just sent the trailer to me in a Google Drive and said, check it out. Since you're on vacation, here you can see it and make a video on it. But yeah, thank you guys for sharing access. I'm excited to see what else they've got, and I'm here for it. So let me know what you thought of the trailer. You've been seeing snippets of it all throughout this video, and I'm sure you've watched it if you're watching this. And if you've not, go check it out. The full trailer, you can just find it on YouTube. But let me know what you think in the comment section below. I'll be reading at some point, but probably not immediately, because again, I am a little busy when I'm not hanging out by myself because my kids are in bed. But anyway, thank you for watching. Thank you for making my dreams a reality every day. Again, this and everything else I do would not be possible without you guys watching and supporting and doing all that stuff. You guys are crazy, and I love you for it. Much love. I'll see you in the next one. Hugs and kisses. Bye-bye. Can you tell it's time for my bedtime? Yeah. Bye.
Grand Theft Auto Vice City was an incredible game when it first came out. But when I play it now, I just can't help but think it would have been so much better if they gave it the development time it deserved. A lot of people don't know this, but GTA Vice City was originally planned as a DLC for GTA 3. But after GTA 3 came out, they decided to make it a full game for some reason. Not sure why they would do that money. They churned this bad boy out in 9 months. And as great as it is, you can tell. Don't get me wrong though, I love Vice City. The concept of 80s Miami is perfect for a GTA game, and Rockstar knocked this aesthetic out of the park. I'm not saying any of this because I don't like the game. If anything, I'm saying it because I love this game, and I really think that it deserved better. In this game, you play as Tommy Vercetti, who was just released from prison after 15 years and sent here by the Liberty City Mafia to oversee a deal. But when that deal goes south, he's left with nothing and has to explain to his boss, Sonny, why he lost all of his money. Hey, Sonny.
Tommy, it's been too long.
Yeah, it's been a while, you know, and I just want to say, you know, you smell great today. I can kind of sense that through the phone. Anyway,
How'd the deal go down? You sitting on some white gold?
Yeah, that's what I was calling to talk to you about. So don't get mad. Even though it's not really Tommy's fault, it's still his responsibility to get that money back by any means necessary. And now, with the stage set, we are let loose like a rabid dog on the neon streets of Vice City. It's hard to deny how incredible this vibe is. Cruising down Ocean Drive in a classic sports car, palm trees whizzing by, listening to that iconic radio, just looking up at the neon lights. It's so perfect for a Grand Theft Auto game. The studio president, Sam Houser, called the 80s the grooviest era of crime, where it didn't even feel like it was crime. And if that doesn't encapsulate a goddamn Grand Theft Auto game, I don't know what does. And somehow, through some kind of anti-aging Paul Rudd magic, it still looks absolutely incredible. Sure, the graphics are dated, yes, the lighting is dated, but it was all so stylized at the time that even now, it is such a pleasure to look at. Just like Paul Rudd. He got to be drinking the blood of the innocent or something. I don't know what he's doing. Tommy's only contact in Vice City and only hope of finding who set him up is a lawyer named Ken Rosenberg.
Shut up, sit down, relax. I'll tell you what we're gonna do. You're gonna find out who took our cocaine, and then we're gonna kill them.
That's a good idea. That's a great idea. Let me think. Oh, there's this retired colonel, Colonel Juan Garcia Cortez. He's the one that helped me set up this deal well away from Vice City's established thugs, okay? He's holding his party out in the bay on his expensive yacht, and all of Vice City's big players are gonna be there, okay? I have an invite. Of course I have an invite. But there's no way that I'm going out there, sticking my head out the door. No way,
I told you, shut up. I'll go myself.
Oh, whoa.
A lot of the characters in this game were inspired by various pieces of 80s media, and Ken Rosenberg is definitely one of them. Now, the main inspirations were Carlito's Way, Goodfellas, Miami Vice, and of course, Scarface. Throughout the game, we'll see a lot of this influence on the story, characters, and even some pretty cool Easter eggs, like this one right back here, that I'm not gonna show you until later. Guess you gotta watch the whole video. Look at you, you're curious. The General's having a yacht party that we've got a way into, but there's only one catch. You can't show up in this. You think Amazon would let me return a suit if I tell them I only bought it for the bit? See, Vice City came out in 2002. So while it was remarkable for the time, there are just some things that are standard for open worlds today that aren't here. For one, the clothing shops you normally find in games like this, where you can actually spend the money you've earned on cosmetics for your character, are non-existent in this game. Instead, there are these glowing little circles on the ground, and when you jump into them, it'll change your outfit. And this is one of the things I actually don't mind so much, because Tommy's outfits are so relevant to the time and iconic to the character. The suit with the sleeves rolled up is straight out of Miami Vice, and it's perfect. I just wish it wasn't so hard to keep the sleeves rolled up. I feel like I'm casing sausage over here. But there are a few other little things like this that do show the game's age. Like, for one, the original camera movement on the PS2 game Good Christ, it is nauseating. And the shooting mechanics are so bad they make me want to reenact this violence in real life. That's not true, but when the game came out, they thought it was true. They thought people were gonna do that. Humans aren't always the smartest creatures. Now, it is marginally better than GTA 3, but when you look at what they were able to accomplish with GTA San Andreas just 2 years later, it pales in comparison. I may be biased though. I love San Andreas with all my heart. And the saddest part is, Vice City actually had an opportunity to be modernized with the definitive edition that came out in 2021. But instead of Rockstar using the $8 billion they made from GTA 5 to make something that was actually decent, do this game justice for once, we got this. The most half-hearted Pixar AI filter of a remaster I've ever seen in my entire life. They had such an amazing opportunity to take these beloved classics, the games that built the foundation for their current success, and revitalize them, give them the love that they deserve. Instead, they just took the original game, tweaked the controls to be semi-usable, and slapped a new coat of paint on that thing. My biggest nitpick is that this game says it uses Unreal Engine, which is an incredible engine capable of a lot of great stuff. But this game does not use Unreal Engine. The graphics use Unreal Engine. Under the hood, this is still the same old game, just the graphics specifically are running through Unreal Engine, which is something that can work. It's been proven by the Oblivion remake that recently came out, and it's so good. I just don't know why Oblivion's so good and this one's so bad. Imagine all that work just for your game to look more like the Family Guy video game than the originals it's based on. Come on, bro. We might as well put Lois in the game, then it's a 10 out of 10. Now, the definitive edition is better than when it first came out. They've done some updates to the lighting and the textures, and this might be crazy to say, but with all of its flaws, I still do think this is the best way to play GTA Vice City. However, that does not mean it's good. It's just the best of a bad situation that could have been easily fixed by just giving a damn. I will say visually, I still prefer the look of the PC version. It's just the gameplay mechanics and the camera movement, the shooting, all of it is absolutely miserable. Now, the craziest part in all of this is that there was actually a group of people who actually care about Vice City who all got together and made a mod called the Next Gen Edition, basically porting all of Vice City, all of its missions, everything into GTA 4's engine. It loses a little bit of that Vice City feel, but it's still so impressive and way more effort than even Rockstar cares to give to one of its beloved classics. On this yacht, there are a couple figures that will be relevant later on in the game, but the only one that matters right now is the general. We don't get too much information out of him now. It's more just establishing that relationship and the fact that we're both looking for who jacked the deal. It's not until we learn about a slimy little freak named Kent Paul that we get a lead. Rosenberg tells us we can find Kent in a club called the Malibu, so that's where we'll go.
You Ken Paul? I'm a friend of Rosenberg's. Listen to me. I'm missing 20 keys and a lot of cash.
Drugs, mate? It's a mugs game.
What do you know about it?
Oi, well, what I was coming to was, there's some chef come trumpet shifter who deals that kitchen of a hotel on Ocean Drive. He's been looking real pleased with himself lately. You could go and check him out.
I will. And I'll be seeing you around.
I love how they took into account the party and substance culture of Miami in the 80s. It just feels so authentic. Obviously, though, I was not alive at this time. I was not a twinkle in the eye of my papa, so I can't really attest to that firsthand, but I guess what I mean is it feels very thoroughly researched and crafted with a genuine appreciation for the culture of this time. There is one thing I can attest to firsthand, though, and that is just the state of Florida overall. I'm a Florida man through and through. Yeah, I might not live there anymore, but you can take the man out of Florida. Can't take the Florida out the man. Give me a gator, I'll wrestle him. Tap out. Come on, tap out. Tap out, you ain't got nothing. I'm gonna crack a Bud Light with your teeth. Walking the streets of Vice City, you'll see just about as many crackheads as you will normal people, which is pretty accurate, I'd say. They're not as interactable as real crackheads, though. Real crackheads will like sing to you or like scream at you that God really needs you to take off your shoes right now, dude. In the middle of a Walgreens, God needs you to take off your shoes. The devil's gonna get you if you don't take off your shoes, dude. But they did get the waddle down. They got it perfect. I mean, with the dogs out too. The city is twice as large as Liberty City from GTA 3, but to be fair, a lot of that is water. It was modeled with real-life Miami in mind, but the developers didn't want the gameplay to suffer for the sake of realism, so Things were definitely twisted and just to make it a little more entertaining. Like the different sections of the map have a lot more visual variety between them. You'll see a lot of different cars or pedestrians in different areas based on level of income. And they went pretty hard on the interiors, like this one for the Malibu Club. The lighting is perfect for a nightclub. And up on the stage, they got the village people dancing. You know, the guys that do the YMCA. How do you, it's fun to stay at the YMCA. A lot of this game is just drive over here and then talk to a person who will tell you to drive over there. I mean, at least for the first little while, it's just a bunch of this. Over time, though, it does become more about the missions themselves. It's still a huge improvement over GTA 3 in terms of narrative. With a 9-month development time, we didn't actually get to see too many improvements, but the major one here is that the protagonist actually talks. Claude in GTA 3 never said a goddamn word, but for Tommy Vercetti, they got Ray Liotta from Goodfellas to voice it. The entire cast is actually pretty star-studded. There's a lot of famous people here. I'm not gonna name them all. You recognize any of these people? They're in the game.
Hey, what you looking at? You better start talking. Hey, make me, you prick. You're all idiots down here!
Oh, way to go, tough guy. Beat him to a pulp. That should make him real chatty.
You want some too?
Hey, chill. I want what you want, brother.
Oh, yeah?
This is another prominent character in Vice City named Lance Vance. His brother was actually the guy who died at the beginning of the game. And he was also the protagonist of the PSP spin-off GTA Vice City Stories, which I've never played before, but I've heard is pretty good. Lance saves our life from an angry mob of chefs that's coming to chop us up with a butcher knife. And then he takes us to the Ammunition, GTA's premium gun store. You're listening to 103 The Gunch. Ammunition. Sorry, I don't know why I did that. A cool little fact about Ammunition is they originally gave all the guns in the store names, but due to copyright reasons, there's copyright laws on guns, they had to change them all to very generic names. That's not the only copyright problem they had either. This game is full of licensed music, and probably the most iconic song from it is Billie Jean by Michael Jackson. Well, Billie Jean and multiple other songs had to be removed from any subsequent re-releases of the game because they couldn't maintain the copyright, which I think is kind of crazy. I feel like Billie Jean is so iconic and mentally linked to this game for me that it just doesn't feel right. Well, now we have the lead that Diaz, the guy who was talking to the general on the boat, is the guy who stole the merchandise. There's actually a little hint to that on the boat where he says, "Barbarians at the gate." I think we are the barbarian. But we don't really have a way to get at him just yet. So in the meantime, we've got a couple jobs to do. We gotta go do a favor for the mob by intimidating some jurors.
Hey, man, my car! Leave my damn car alone, man!
And then go destroy some trucks for Avery Carrington, another guy we met on the boat. At this point, the game starts to slowly lean away from its heavy narrative focus and becomes more like GTA 3, where you're just kind of doing jobs for people. I mean, at this point in the game, it makes sense, you know? Tommy has no money to his name and has to work up the totem pole one way or another. All these menial little tasks actually lead to one of the most memorable missions in the game for me. But for that, we're gonna have to slip into something a little more comfortable. Yep. That's right, another costume change. We lose everything except our melee weapons. And while you can use any of them, I'm pretty sure all of us used the golf club.
Are you a country member?
Apparently there's a way to get into the golf course with all your weapons by jumping a ramp, but I never found this one myself. There's really not too much to this mission. Maybe it's just how specific and themed it was that stuck out to me. And Vice City shows its age pretty much everywhere, but the most egregious example is the Demolition Man mission. A lot of people complain about this one. It's not that bad. It's just the controls are very aged. This guy we've been doing jobs for, Avery, is a real estate goon, so all of his jobs pertain to real estate related things. That's probably why we're always meeting him at a construction site, actually. That makes sense. I didn't even think about that till right now. This little mission for Avery where you have to fly the helicopter up into the building so you can blow it up is just so absolutely frustrating and dated. For me, it's not necessarily that it's hard, it's just that the controls are so clunky and bullshit that it makes the whole thing so tedious. Anytime I replay this game, I always dread doing this mission. The story rarely actually matters when going to do these missions. It's more just an excuse to put the missions in the game. You think I can take this off now? I'm gonna take this off now. It's weird because I'll excuse the flaws of Vice City for just being a product of its time. But not only did San Andreas fix all of those flaws, only 2 years later, it went above and beyond, adding in so much more. Vice City is conceptually amazing. I would even say it's the best setting and story setup in the entire series. Except Chinatown Wars, but the world ain't ready for that conversation. I love Tommy Vercetti, and I love this era of Miami, but I don't love the fact that these ideas were only given $5 million and 9 months of development time. I mean, goddamn, you can't even swim in the beach game. Vice City has the most water in any GTA map. There are multiple boat missions, and yet, if you fall into the water, you die. I've read online that they wanted to add swimming, but just didn't have the time, and that sucks. Why didn't they have the time? You know, I think as much as GTA Vice City is fun and a classic, it very much deserved better. This concept, this story, it deserved the love and care that San Andreas got. I think what rubs me so bad about the definitive edition is that they had another chance to make it right, and yet you did the same thing again, rushing something out the door long before it's done. I have plenty more thoughts on this, but it's mostly in regards to what happens later in the story, which at this point, the story is still pretty good. It stays on a very strong track. After doing some odd jobs, eventually we meet up with Lance again. Another little fun fact for you, Lance was actually voiced by Philip Michael Thomas, the actor who played Tubbs in Miami Vice, and that is just cool. It's at this point he reveals it was his brother who died in the deal gone wrong, and he wants to work with Tommy now to get revenge. Although first they gotta find a way in, so they actually do a job protecting Diaz in a deal of his own that goes wrong, and Diaz is so impressed with them both that he starts hiring them to do things for him.
That gang place is a fortress at ground level. So Quentin here, Quentin! He'll fly you over the area. Eradicate them!
Diaz is where a lot of the Scarface influence comes into play, but there's really influence of Scarface on this entire game. Like the story of Tommy Vercetti coming to Miami after a long stint in prison and working his way up the drug underworld. Not to mention the Diaz mansion is like a recreation of Tony Montana's mansion in that movie. I know you've been waiting for it. There's also an Easter egg here in this motel room where if you go into the bathroom, you can find blood all over the place as an homage to the chainsaw scene from Scarface. Grand Theft Auto has always been this weird kind of reflection of American culture. It's like staring into a funhouse mirror that makes you feel a little bad about yourself, but then you go down the slide and you get some cotton candy, you're having a good time again. It's not like for developing this game, they could go back to the 80s and see what it was really like then. So the bulk of their research would have had to have been on media from that time, or reflecting that time. Having only seen a handful of the media that they're referencing, I would say they do a pretty good job of portraying the vibe of the era and creating their own twist on the ideas they pulled from. But the 80s wasn't just famous for long hair and bisexual lighting. There's a lot more going on back then, and one of the big ones was action movies. Some of the most iconic franchises we still know today came from this era. Predator, Die Hard, Rambo, Terminator, Top Gun, Lethal Weapon, RoboCop. The list is as long as it is muscular and hairy. I wouldn't say we see a lot of that in Vice City. It's definitely more a crime drama focused period piece, but there's still definitely some elements of that present here, especially in the next couple missions we do for Diaz. Like one of them is a chase over rooftops hunting down someone that Diaz said betrayed him. He jumps through exploding barrels, so that's one action movie box check, and then he jumps in a dune buggy for a shootout on the road, which is I think like 2 or 3 more boxes checked. We don't actually take him down here either. We just see where he goes and then report back to Diaz. And only then do we show up in a helicopter shooting a minigun out the side. That's like 75 more boxes checked. I've checked all of them. It's not that fun because the mechanics are half-baked, but it's cool conceptually, just like the whole game. I'm sorry. Diaz begins to trust us a bit more and keeps calling us in for jobs. What I love about this character is how much personality they were able to give him in such little screen time. Every time we show up to him, he's doing some other crazy shit.
Not so pleased with yourselves now, huh?
He's clearly batshit insane with power, similar to Tony Montana at the end of Scarface. And remember, he's the one who ripped off the deal in the beginning. So technically for Tommy, this would kind of be getting 2 birds stoned at once. You know, you kill him and you get revenge, but you also get the keys to the castle. And in the beginning of the game, I really thought it was Sonny who had set Tommy up as a way to keep him under his thumb. Because when you call him, he has like the drugs and the money all sitting out on the table. But I did what I always do when I don't know what I'm talking about, and I go on Reddit to steal someone else's opinion. And and somebody made a good point that the drugs couldn't actually get there in that amount of time, so it was just unrelated drugs, I guess. I mean, it makes sense. I don't know. I just always thought it was Sonny. Let me know in the comments if you also thought that, or if maybe that is true. I'm still a little confused. Lance and Tommy want to take out Diaz eventually, but Tommy wants to wait until the right moment, and Lance is an impatient little wiener boy. I actually hate Lance throughout this entire game. They make him cool for 5 seconds, and then he just whines in your ear the rest of the game. And he's constantly making problems for you. Like, I don't think he's done a single helpful thing in the entire game. He wouldn't even listen to Tommy and wait until the moment was right. He tried to take down Diaz himself and got himself captured.
You know that wanker Diaz, the bugle meister? He's got your boy Lugs. Word is your mate tried to jump him. Didn't jump high enough, if you know what I mean.
Where did he take him?
In
plain English.
Keep your party on.
This forces us to save Lance from Diaz hit squad and fast track our plans of taking down the crime lord for good.
There goes my careful planning blown to shit. Thanks to you. You screwed up real good, Lance. You killed my brother. What do you expect me to do, mow his lawn?
We infiltrate his mansion through the back and mow down his great deal of goons, working our way up to him. How does anybody get this many goons? Diaz walks out like Tony Montana with a machine gun, but he's no match for Lance and Tommy. And with a single bullet, Vice City is ours.
Say goodnight, Mr. Diaz.
It's a pretty quick rise to the top. I mean, all of this only took about 2 hours of gameplay. And in my opinion, it would have been so much better if they took everything we just experienced and spread it out a little bit, maybe over like a 10 to 12 hour game. And not in a padding it out kind of way either, you know, just maybe actually exploring all the ideas they've presented. Because I mean, this whole taking over Vice City's criminal underworld thing wasn't something I as a player felt like I earned in any way. And then when everybody started celebrating, I was just confused, kind of like, that was it? That was all it took? I don't know, to me it just kind of felt way too easy. And I would have been okay with it if the rest of the game was as strong as that first 2 hours, but it's definitely not. We have a couple of jobs to do to maintain control, like extort the local businesses and keep our employees in line.
What's the problem?
Some bars refusing to pay. They reckon they're protected by a local gang of thugs. But don't worry, Tommy. I can handle it.
You call this handling it? You two, off your asses. Let's go.
And after you do those, then you do the side missions. That's what you do next. You do the side missions next. I'll give them this. There's some pretty cool side missions in the game. I want to run through them real quick. They're not necessary, but again, they are cool. I actually only recorded them on the definitive edition though, so if you're wondering why the footage is switching, that's why. So another big thing in the 80s was hair bands. People would line up for miles just to see a Draugr from Skyrim with long hair and eyeliner perform Fusro Da at the devil. And for Vice City, they made sure to capture that. Instead of adding on to their star-studded cast by bringing in a real band, they created a band for the game. Love Fist. All around the city, you can see billboards, posters of this fictional band. And even if you never noticed, you probably heard some of their songs come on the radio because they made songs for this game. These songs are from the game. Love Fist is on tour for one night only in Vice City, and it's our job to make sure they get high as fuck.
We need some drugs, pal!
We get a side quest to go pick up ingredients for their insane drug concoction, and then a couple others to track down their stalker and find them security. And that leads us to a biker gang who we want to try and hire to be the security for Love Fist, but in order to get them to be security, we have to prove that we're metal, so we have to go in the street and kill a bunch of people. Maybe the media had a point a little bit, just a little bit. Yeah, you seem cool, dude, but I really need you to prove that you're cool by going out and killing a bunch of innocent people. The missions aren't anything crazy for Love Fist, but the one thing I love is how ingrained they are in this open world.
See the pounding rock from the band that brought you hits like Chin Stainer, Liver Buster, and Dangerous Man, Dead Family. Come get Love Fisted.
The next big set of side missions is getting involved in a war between the rival Haitian and Cuban gangs. The leader of the Cubans is actually played by Danny Trejo, and he just asks about your cojones a lot.
Show me you got some big cojones. And not some little bitty chiquita ones.
No, they're not big, but they are definitely long. Like a tube sock with meatballs in it. I like that this part of the game just feels so separate from anything Tommy was doing, and it barely makes sense for him to even be there, but it just kind of doesn't matter. Again, this is a time when video games were more mission focused than story focused. We didn't have the walk and talk movie simulators yet, and so I imagine they just made the side quests and then bullshit a reason for Tommy to be there story-wise. And it makes even less sense that he works for both sides, and their reasoning for that is every time he visits Auntie Paulette, the leader of the Haitians, she drugs or hypnotizes him into doing the things he's doing.
Now be a good boy, Tommy, and go and get the powders for Auntie Paulette.
Yeah, sure.
Neither side knows that Tommy's working for both. And I don't really think Tommy knows either. Now, the most memorable mission in this for me is when you've got to take your big cojones, hop on a boat, and park right in front of like 20 dudes. The cutscene ends with you in front of 20 dudes. You have absolutely no cover, and you have to shoot them all before they get you. And what I'm wondering is, what sick bastard at Rockstar thought this was a good idea? You can beat the entirety of GTA Vice City in like 4 to 5 hours. This mission alone took me an hour. And every time you die, you have to start all the way from the beginning. It is actually a nightmare. How are people complaining about the Demolition Man mission when this affront to God is in the game? There are plenty more side missions to do, like the payphone missions or finishing up the stories of all the guys you were previously doing stuff for. But after you've completed all of those, you, I don't know. I don't know what you're supposed to do. Do I leave? Is it over? What am I supposed to do? Asset missions? What the F? Okay, jokes aside, the ending of this game is locked behind some things called asset missions. A really cool concept that I really hate because they don't tell you that. You might not have seen it, but outside all of the properties we've been to, there's a little option to buy them. And that is how you beat the game. You need to buy at least 6 of them and do all of their missions in order to unlock the ending. Don't get me wrong, they're fun enough to play, but they're all pretty much unrelated from the main plot, aside from the asset missions you can do for the mansion, which is technically one of the properties. Although those come with their own problem, which is Lance Vance acting like a crybaby on the phone.
I ain't interested in what you gotta say. Why should I be? You don't care about me, do you? You gotta look after me a bit better. Give me a spare slice, you know?
After 2 to 3 hours of doing things completely unrelated to him, Sonny Forelli just pokes his big fat head into our business and wants a little cut. And Tommy is not hearing any of that.
You sent me to kill one man. One man! They knew I was coming, Sonny.
Tommy, watch your tone.
So Sonny sends a bunch of goons down here to steal our money. Where's everybody getting these goons? After you kill all the goons, that's when the mob rolls into town and we begin the final mission. To be fair, I spent much longer than the average playthrough just taking my time through the game, which meant those 2 hours of story-driven gameplay at the beginning weren't exactly fresh in my mind. Sonny shows up in Vice City, and Tommy actually does something pretty clever in trying to trick him with fake money. But our old pal Lance, that we trusted, even though he never contributed once, and in fact only made things harder for us, reveals he's been helping Sonny all along.
You sold us out.
No, I sold you out, Tommy. I sold you out.
We break into a shootout once again, just like in Scarface, and then follow Lance up to the roof where we kill him off.
This is the last dance for Lance Vance.
And that right there, ladies and gentlemen, is the best line in the whole game. I love it so much. With Lance dead, we go down to deal with Sonny, who we just shoot from afar, and then the screen goes black.
Tommy? Oh my God, Tommy, what happened?
What does it look like? That stupid prick Lance.
Tommy, I never liked that guy, okay? He's neurotic, he's insecure, he's self-centered. The guy's an asshole. I'm glad you took him out.
I don't think we're gonna be getting any more heat from up north either. Because there ain't no up north anymore.
Wait, does that mean what I think it means? Tommy, baby!
What do you think it means?
That we're in charge. I mean that you're in charge. Oh, Tommy!
You know, Ken, I think this could be the beginning of a beautiful business relationship.
After all, you're a conniving, backstabbing 2-bit thief, and I'm a convicted psychotic killer and drug dealer.
I know. Ain't it just beautiful?
There's a lot to love about Grand Theft Auto Vice City. I think the setting is one of my favorites in any open world game. The dialogue is hilarious and it always hits. And if all I had to judge this game on was driving around the city listening to the radio, I give it a 10 out of 10. I've said it plenty throughout the video, but it really is hard to judge a game that is this old. I mean, the standards were just so different back then, and I wasn't even alive, so it's hard for me to have perspective on that. The only reference point I have is other games that came out around that time, like GTA San Andreas. Only came out 2 years after this one. And yes, this game is good, but imagine if the concept of Vice City was given as much love as San Andreas. It would be the uncontested favorite of the series, I think. But sadly, that's just not the case. And while yes, it sucks, and I do wish this game got a little more attention, it is still so much better than taking 13 years to make a video game. As gaming has gotten bigger and bigger, it's become so much more common for games to take years, sometimes decades, to release a sequel, trying so hard to meet player expectations and blow their previous game out of the water. So by today's standards, instead of getting GTA 3, Vice City, San Andreas, and then GTA 4, we probably would have only got GTA 3 and then GTA 4, and tack on an extra 5 years in between just for good measure. I don't know about you, but I prefer the way they did it back then, you know, when not everything being made had to be leaps and bounds ahead of its predecessor. Another thing to consider, San Andreas took $10 million to make, and it's very possible that when making Vice City, Rockstar did not have $10 million to justify throwing at one game. Could be that they needed to do Vice City in order to afford San Andreas. This is an idea that kind of hits close to home for me. I know it's very different, but I always want to make my videos bigger, better, more impressive than the last one. But trying to one-up yourself on everything you do just leads to these feelings of self-doubt, second-guessing like everything you're doing, and making it ultimately just take way longer than it should because you're stuck up in your head. And beyond that, it just raises the bar even higher for next time. It is such a self-defeating cycle. I wasn't expecting my GTA Vice City video to be like this, but in writing about it, in researching it, it made me realize something, you know, that just because something hasn't lived up to its absolute full potential doesn't mean it doesn't deserve to exist. And even this video that you're watching did not live up to its full potential. I've been working on this thing for like 5 months. I had these plans to rent a sports car for this. I was gonna go all out here. But when I finished the script for this video, felt right to pull back on that stuff a little bit, you know? I think Vice City deserved better. Hell, I think this video deserved better. But despite all of their flaws, I still think they were worth making. I'm really curious what you guys think about this, both in the context of Vice City and my videos. Do you want to see more videos back to back? Stuff easier to produce, and then I just kind of space out the movie style videos? You know, what do you think? Anyway, click the card right here to go watch another one of my videos. Thank y'all so much for 385,000 subscribers. That is just such a crazy number to me. It's just unfathomable at this point.
In April 2025, a peaceful tourist town in Kashmir turned into a nightmare.
28 people are reported to have been killed after gunmen opened fire on tourists in Indian-administered Kashmir.
So why would they do that? A group of armed terrorists stopped travelers and began asking one terrifying question: are you Hindu or Muslim? If the
That sounds a lot like terrorism to me. And then they shoot them if they say that they're not like the right one?
answer didn't match, they opened fire.
Right.
26 innocent tourists were killed. One woman crying over her husband's body.
See, this is one of the big differences that a lot of people don't really understand, is that the difference between a war and terrorism is that these terrorists actively target civilians and they kill civilians specifically. They don't go in trying to attack a military base and civilians get killed in the process. They don't, they don't try to bomb a place where there are a military area and there's casualties of collateral damage. These people actively target civilians. They do. They actively target them.
Begged the attackers to shoot her
easy
too.
wins. Yeah, it's like in Rust, where you're sitting out there on the beach ready to shoot some new person.
Terrorist laughed, telling her to go tell India's prime minister. Since that moment, India's people are furious. The army is on alert. Pakistan is getting nervous, And now, the big question is...
Well, why would Pakistan be nervous? Shouldn't Pakistan use their own military to find out where these insurgency terrorist groups are and get rid of them themselves? Because, like, if they have a terrorist group in their country, isn't that a problem for Pakistan? And if that's not a problem for Pakistan, then that sounds like Pakistan is a problem. That's what I would say. That's their responsibility.
Is the next war loading in 2025? Let's go back, see how it all began.
What is this?
At the time of independence in 1947, British India was divided into two separate nations. India, which had a Hindu majority population, Pakistan, created as a homeland for Muslims. But the split wasn't as clean as drawing a line on a map. It was violent, brutal, and deeply personal. Over 15 million people were forced to move. Muslims from India to Pakistan, and Hindus and Sikhs from Pakistan to India. Entire families uprooted. Trains filled with refugees arrived.
Why is Britain over there fucking... Why are they playing civilization over in India? Spices? This is ridiculous. This is why, by the way, this is why a lot of the world hates the West. It's because of bullshit like this. This is a country that they're not even next to. They're in a totally different fucking place. And now they're trying to play fucking, you know, I don't know, civilization, playing Risk with this country. It's insane. The spice must flow, I guess so. But I just wanted you guys to see, this is the reason, and by the way, it doesn't excuse terrorism. Obviously, it doesn't excuse terrorism. It doesn't excuse this to happen. But, like, if you're in one of these countries and your family got displaced, yeah, I wouldn't like Britain either.
Slaughtered. Neighborhoods that had coexisted for centuries turned on each other overnight. It became one of the biggest and bloodiest migrations in human history, with over 1 million people dead. Wow. That trauma didn't just vanish. It turned into resentment, and the cracks only got deeper. One of the biggest cracks, a paradise called Kashmir.
Why aren't they mad at Britain? Because I feel like Britain is the one that did this, not even Pakistan and India.
Kashmir was, and still is, one of the most breathtaking places in the world.
That's a really nice place.
Peaks, peaceful lakes, lush green valleys, a literal heaven on earth.
They're too far away.
Politically, it's been a hell. When the British left, they gave over 560 princely states like Kashmir a choice. Join India, join Pakistan, or stay independent. The ruler of Kashmir, Maharaja Hari Singh, was a Hindu, but most of the people in Kashmir were Muslim. The Maharaja wanted to stay independent, not join either India or Pakistan. But then, in October 1947, tribal militias from Pakistan, backed by its army, launched an invasion into Kashmir to force it into Pakistan. In panic...
Well, I mean, that's pretty one-sided, isn't it?
The Maharaja turned to India for help. India agreed, but on one condition: Kashmir must officially become part of India. The Maharaja signed the instrument of accession, legally joining Kashmir to India. And Indian troops flew in to push back the attackers.
Want to blame Britain now? Yeah, of course, because Britain are the ones that started this. Just because Britain isn't responsible for every action along the chain doesn't mean that Britain didn't light the fuse.
Just like that, the first Indo-Pak War began. That war ended in 1948 with a ceasefire brokered by the United Nations.
And also, it doesn't mean Pakistan is... Look, it doesn't mean Pakistan is good. Like, obviously, I mean, these people are... They're awful terrorists, right? That are, like, going in here and killing, like, civilians. Yeah, not everybody in Pakistan, obviously, before somebody tries to take that out of context again. But, like, the people that are going in and forcing these military insurgency groups, they're awful people. They're terrible. They're terrorists. Of course. But if you can't see the downstream effect of this nation building and imperialism and how this creates these structural problems, I don't know what to tell you. Two things can be wrong at the same time. And like, do you know what I'm saying? Not just Britain. Do you know how like I've criticized like Hassan, for example, for not being able to like acknowledge that, you know, there are bad actors on both sides? I think that we're doing the same thing by not acknowledging that Britain was also a bad actor in this situation as well. I do. I think we're doing the same thing. We shouldn't do that. Look, here's my point. I think that the amount of imperialism and the amount of oversight that foreign countries do on countries that do not have the same race, culture, traditions, or religion as them, making decisions for them, enforcing their will on these countries, I think this is a recipe for disaster. It is, and I think historically, this can be proven in so many cases, and I think a lot of the current conflicts that we have right now are the result of that happening. So, I don't see how you can ignore that. I don't see how you can say that's not happening. You don't lose anything by acknowledging that this is true. It doesn't mean that the West is evil or the West is bad. It just means that maybe we shouldn't meddle in people's affairs so much, and then maybe it wouldn't create these problems that happen down the line. It's not unreasonable to think that way. There's nothing that's unreasonable about this at all. If you're going around and you're fucking taking over countries and then trying to make decisions for them, you're going to have problems. I don't know what to say.
That war ended in 1948
okay, that was pretty
with
fast.
a ceasefire brokered by the United Nations.
Anyway.
But the damage was done. Kashmir was now divided. India controlled about 2/3 of the region. Pakistan controlled the rest, which it still holds today as POK, or Pakistan-Occupied Kashmir, POK. The UN called for a referendum to let the people of Kashmir decide their future, but that vote never happened. And since
What a surprise. Man, that sucks.
Since then, Kashmir has remained the bone of contention in every major conflict between the two nations. India and Pakistan have fought 4 wars in total. 1947 to 48, the first war, right after partition over Kashmir.
This is about to be 5.
1965, another full-scale war,
Holy
again
shit.
over Kashmir. 1971, the most devastating war, but this time not about Kashmir. It was about East Pakistan, where India supported the independence movement that eventually created Bangladesh. 1999, Kargil War.
Wow.
Pakistani soldiers and militants
I didn't even know about this.
disguised as locals infiltrated Indian territory in the Kargil region. India launched a massive counterattack operation and pushed them back.
Wow.
In each of these wars, India emerged stronger militarily. But the cycle of hatred and mistrust never broke. And when war didn't work, Pakistan tried something else. By the early 2000s, a new kind of war had begun. A shadow war. Terrorism became the weapon of choice.
It does seem like, I mean, again, this video could be biased, but from this, the way the video is prescribing this, it seems like Pakistan is the aggressor in every single one of these instances. That they're the ones that are starting it, every single one.
Instead of soldiers crossing the borders with tanks, militants
The video could be biased. It's important to keep in mind.
quietly with backpacks, guns, and suicide vests. Attacks on civilians became a tool to destabilize India, especially in Kashmir. One of the most horrific examples, Mumbai, 26/11. On the night of November 26, 2008, 10 terrorists from Pakistan arrived by boat on the shores of Mumbai, armed with AK-47s, grenades, and explosives. They split into teams and launched simultaneous attacks across the city. The Taj Mahal Hotel, the Oberoi Trident Hotel, Cafe Leopold, a Jewish community center, Shivaji train station. For nearly 60 hours, Mumbai turned into a war zone. More than 170 people died, including American, Israeli, and British citizens. Over 300 were injured. The only surviving attacker, Ajmal Kasab, was captured alive. His interrogation revealed detailed planning and training, all traced back to Pakistan-based terror group Lashkar-e-Taiba. Then came Pulwama in 2019. A suicide bomber rammed a vehicle full of explosives into a convoy of Indian paramilitary forces.
So it's just every time. I mean, why can't Pakistan keep these people under control? Yeah, I don't get it. Video is probably biased, but with my knowledge of the situation, Pakistan is more of an incentive to be aggressive than India. Video's biased? You think video's biased? Okay.
In Pulwama district, Kashmir, 40 soldiers were killed instantly. It was the deadliest attack on Indian security forces in decades. The terror group, Jaish-e-Mohammed, based in Pakistan, claimed responsibility. India's response? Swift and bold. In the early hours of February 26, 2019, Indian Air Force jets crossed the border and bombed a terror training camp in Palakkad, Pakistan. This was unprecedented. The first airstrike on Pakistani soil since 1971. Pakistan responded by sending its own jets, leading to a short but intense dogfight. One Indian pilot, Inhanandan Varthaman, was captured, but returned 2 days later as a peace gesture. The world watched nervously.
Well, that's good.
Two nuclear-armed nations, one spark away from disaster. But the situation de-escalated for the moment. Still, the attackers never fully stopped. Cross-border terrorism continued. Sleeper cells were busted. Indian security forces worked round the clock to prevent further strikes. But everything changed on April 22nd, 2025.
So this is the shit that just happened.
With a horrifying
here we
incident
go.
in Pahalgam, Kashmir. The scenic town of
It was like 2 or 3
Pahalgam,
weeks ago, yeah.
nestled in the Kashmir Valley, is known for its tranquil beauty, horse rides through pine forest, and peaceful rivers. Every year, it's a draw in thousands of tourists from across the country and abroad. But that day became a killing field. Tourists, like always, had arrived to enjoy the mountains. Vehicles can't go deep into the region, so most visitors hop on horseback and local guides to explore. Among them was a woman from central India, accompanied by her husband. Their horse guide chatted with them, but something about him was off.
Okay.
He wasn't just asking friendly touristy questions. He started probing. Where are you from? Have you read the Quran?
Oh my God. Oh boy. Oh boy. Here it is. All right. Yeah, I didn't see any of this at all. Holy shit, man.
Are you Hindu or Muslim? The woman tried to brush it off, but then she heard him whisper on a call.
Wait, so they just, okay.
Go with plan B. Guns are in place.
Panic surged through her veins. She discreetly messaged India's intelligence tip line, a hotline most tourists wouldn't even know about. But before the agency could act, it was already
They're all
too
dead.
late. Around 6 to 7 armed men dressed like locals suddenly appeared out of nowhere. Not military uniforms, civilian clothes, horses, and hidden weapons.
Yeah, sure.
But what they carried wasn't small arms. It was full-blown automatic weapons. They
What
started
the
pulling
fuck?
terrorists off horses, shouting at them, "Are you Hindu or Muslim?" If Muslim, read the Quran. If not, they opened fire. Bullets flew in all directions. Screams echoed through the valley. The attackers didn't care if there were women, children, or elderly. Anyone who couldn't answer in the way they wanted was shot. 26 innocent tourists died on the spot. One woman lost her husband right in front of her eyes. Through tears, she shouted at the attackers, "You killed him? Kill me too!" But the response was chilling. One of the terrorists sneered and said, "No, go tell your prime minister what happened today." And then he laughed. A laugh that still...
Well, didn't they just get bombed yesterday? So that would really, you know, that didn't really work out too well for them, did it? Yeah.
rings in the ears of many Indian who heard her testimony.
They
The
want war?
country
You think so?
erupted in grief and then in fury. Across social media,
Yeah, I
protests,
bet.
news channels, there was only one question. How long will we tolerate this? This wasn't just a terror attack. This was psychological warfare. A brutal reminder that terrorism in Kashmir isn't gone. It's just evolved. And once again, all eyes turned toward Pakistan. Because here's the truth. Attacks like these aren't random. They don't come out of nowhere. These are trained operatives, supplied, funded, and sheltered, not by rogue street gangs, but by organized networks, many of which have found safe havens across the border. India's intelligence agency...
That's insane, man. Like, it's hard to know, like I said before, right? It's always hard to know, like, if this kind of stuff is biased or not. But I don't know what to say. It keeps saying this was in the same thing with a different name. Not every Muslim is a terrorist. I mean, obviously, like, it's... Look, religious extremism is bad no matter what you're doing, right? I mean, like, I don't know why it's hard to understand. Like, this is my stance on it. All religious extremism is bad. Any group that uses their religion to be violent to civilians and commit terrorist activities, I think should be completely annihilated. That's why I pay my taxes to the military. That's what I want the military to do. So that's it, right? I mean, and so, like, it doesn't matter. Is it disproportionately affecting one religion or another? It doesn't matter. Even if it only affects one religion, it doesn't matter because it's the action that's the problem, not the religion.
Began tracing the attackers' origins. Early reports suggested ties to a radicalized splinter group operating out of Pakistan-administered Kashmir. The government didn't realize all the details, but what came out was enough. And India's response? It wasn't immediate missiles or strikes. It was something smarter. Enter the water war. Let's rewind to the 1960s for a moment. India and Pakistan signed the Indus Waters Treaty, brokered by the World Bank. Under it, Pakistan would get unrestricted access to the Indus, Jhelum, and Chenab rivers. India would control the Ravi, Beas, and Sutlej. This was meant to prevent disputes over water, a resource both countries rely on heavily. Of course. But post-Pahalgam, India began...
It's crazy how I can see why they're fighting over this shit. This looks really nice. Oh my god, that looks amazing. Bro, like, that's out of a video game.
Post-Pahalgam, India began reviewing the treaty, and in a bold but silent move, India started diverting excess water that traditionally flowed into Pakistan. Not cutting off water, but minimizing the outflow legally within treaty terms. It was a message. You keep sending terror, we'll stop sending rivers. In agriculture-dependent Pakistan, where 70% of the water comes from these rivers, this hit hard. The government issued press releases, held emergency meetings, and called it a violation. But legally, India hadn't broken anything. It had simply stopped playing nice. Meanwhile, back at the line of control, things got hotter, literally. Small gunfire exchanges began almost...
I mean, like, this is kind of how I see something like that, is, like, I think cutting off their water supply is fucking awful, right? It is. But I think that what they're saying is that, like, in the same way that the Pakistani government, they think is probably playing stupid with these terrorist organizations, they're going to play stupid with the treaty as well. I think that seems like kind of what's going on.
Daily, reports surface...
That's what they think is happening.
Of drone intrusions, sniper activity, and unmanned surveillance aircrafts being taken down. But that wasn't all. For the first time in over a year, Indian Air Force fighter jets began routine patrols across northern air zones, especially near the borders. Troop movement increased. Tanks were spotted near forward bases. Special forces began training drills close to the border. This wasn't war, but it wasn't peace either. Pakistan, already reeling from an economic crisis, a falling currency, and skyrocketing inflation, suddenly had to prepare for something it wasn't ready for: escalation. While Indian military analysts discussed precision response and surgical strikes, Pakistani generals were seen holding late-night emergency meetings. And the civilians? They were lining up for basic groceries. As flour prices doubled and fuel became scarce, public trust in the government hit rock bottom. But Did that stop the military elite? Not really. Pakistan's leadership has often operated with the mindset of strategic depth, keeping the India conflict alive to justify its military control over internal affairs. But this time, with international pressure building and their economy in free fall, their bluff might just be called.
Wow.
At this moment, India hasn't launched a full-blown military strike, but the chessboard is set. Tensions are the highest they've been in years.
It's crazy that both of these countries have nukes too, which is what's nuts.
Are alert. Borders are
that's a
hot.
whole lot.
Diplomats are working overtime, and across both countries, citizens are wondering, is this the start of something big?
Wow. Well, I think it probably will be, honestly. It's true. It's an effective technique usually. Do you not even one prime minister in Pakistan is able to complete full term? They were always arrested by the military. Yeah, I mean, like, that sounds pretty bad. I mean, the thing is, whenever I look at the video like this, it's very obvious to me that, I mean, like, I don't know. It seems like it was biased in favor of India, and, like, it was pretty much one-dimensional. But, like, some conflicts are like that, right? I mean, there's a good side and a bad side, right? I don't know whether that's true or not, but, like, my skepticism, you know, like, shield kind of goes up when I see that every single instance that's shown in the video is an instance of, you know, like, one person being the aggressor and the other person not being. And this is just me coming at it from, like, a layman's perspective, because I know that, you know, the way with all media is, it can be deceptive. And so when I see something that's, like, trying to paint a very one-dimensional picture, I do begin being very skeptical because of that. Sadly, it's the case. Yeah, I'd need to know more about it before I was sure. But yeah, that's actually really good to know. This is a YouTube video too. Somebody just linked it on my Reddit, but I'll link it to you guys right now. Which one is it? I think this is it. Yeah, this is it. And this guy actually has only made 2 videos ever. This is a really, really good video. Yeah, I mean, I would say, like, the editing and everything is really, really well put together. So I'll link you guys his video so you can subscribe to his channel. Yeah, there it is. We had a big release today. There is a new pope, gentlemen. Big day. Big, big day. And he's an American pope. This is the first American pope in the history of the Catholic Church.
I announce to you a great joy.
This is it. Here it comes.
Habemus Papam.
We have a pope.
Eminentissimum.
The most eminent.
Ac reverendissimum
and a reverend.
Dominum Robertum Franciscum.
Robert
Sancte Romane Ecclesiae.
The first American Pope has been elected. Cardinal Prevost.
Qui sibi nomen imposuit.
That's right.
Decimum
Well, Cardinal
quartum.
Prevost, the
Leo
first
the 14th.
American Pope.
We are so back.
Chicago-born, has been elected as the 267th successor of St. Peter. Cardinal Prevost was the leader of the Vatican's office for the dicastery of bishops, the Vatican's dicastery for bishops. He is someone who spent many years as bishop in Peru, as a missionary in Peru.
He's a
Bishop
Peruvian
of
citizen.
Chiclayo in Peru. He was the leader of the Augustinian order, which is a worldwide religious order. He is known as an experienced and wise leader who can bring together people from different points of view. I can see there
it is.
Cardinal Supich
There
of
it is.
Chicago,
Oh,
who
shit.
looks quite happy with the news. This is really an extraordinary moment.
This is an extraordinary moment. And of course, I sit here as an American, whatever it would have been, I think you can't but be but moved to tears. But this is stunning.
Leo
This is
the
stunning.
14th.
Leo the
Now
14th.
that's
is his
significant.
name.
Pope Leo.
the 13th, a pope of Catholic social teaching, of Catholic social doctrine, a pope who stood up for workers, a
It's an
pope
extraordinary moment.
on
Yeah,
the
it
side
is.
of the poor.
It's a big deal.
And Cardinal Prevost, Pope Leo the 14th, I should say, has chosen that name. That is a big statement.
Like, can you, like, I mean, bro, like, look at that. That guy looks fucking cool. Like, these guys, some of these guys look pretty fucking cool. Like, like, yeah, this is some tier, yeah, this is some high-level armor.
That is
Aura?
really
Yeah.
an extraordinary moment.
Assassin's
We all
Creed, yeah.
thought, people were thinking it was going to be an Italian.
Yes.
They thought they were the front runner. But as we said, as I reported,
He's 69.
an American was not ruled out. They were looking at an American.
And you were saying this was possible. It was only today when it moved as fast as it moved that everyone said, well, it must be an Italian.
And
But
this
let's
only
just say
took
this
2
again.
days
Cardinal
also.
Robert Prevost, now Pope Leo XIV.
I think for Francis it took kind of a while, right?
From Chicago, and is now the first American Pope in history. Let's watch Leo XIV coming out.
Oh, shit. It took 2 days? Yeah. It's usually 2 or 3 days. There he is. Man. I've always thought that the fact that Jewish and also Catholic traditions involve putting one of these things on your head is just because a bunch of bald guys ran the organizations and they wanted something to cover up their bald spots. I did. I just... Isn't that interesting? Pope asthma? Yeah, I don't know about that. You should get one? I should convert? You think so? Wow. Look at everybody. So that's our new pope. You would be a good pope? You think I would be? Me? I don't know about that. First American pope of all history. Absolutely not. Yeah, I don't think so either. The Pope of Nurgle, yeah. Man, this timeline is crazy. Yeah. America just can't stop winning. Man. He looks so happy. Well, I mean, yeah. Was the Pope Zachary in 700 AD? Just a piece of history? Yeah. Isn't it crazy how many historical events that we've had to watch on live stream together? I feel like it's been a bit too many. Maybe too many historical events. I don't know what they're saying. Viva Pope? Take it off? What do you mean, take it off? They're saying we want Trump? No, they're not.
La pace sia con tutti voi.
Peace be with you all.
Fratelli, sorelle carissimi.
Dearest brothers and sisters,
Questo è il primo saluto del Cristo risorto.
this is the first
Il buon
greetings
pastore
of the
che ha
resurrected
dato la
Christ,
vita per il gregge di Dio.
the good shepherd who has given up his life for God. And I should also like this greeting of peace to enter our hearts and your families and to all those people, wherever they are.
Why is he not speaking
All
American?
peoples
I don't know.
throughout the world. Peace be with you.
Jesus speaks in Italian. Is Latin? Oh, Jesus speaks in Latin? Is that it? Yeah, I don't know. It could be either one. this guy here, he's real happy. Bro, people are going crazy over this.
This is the peace of the resurrected Christ, a humble and perseverant peace which comes from God, God who loves us all unconditionally.
Deacons of the deep.
Ancora conserviamo nei nostri orecchi
Let us keep in our ears the weak voice of Pope Francis that blesses Rome.
Il Papa che benediva
8
Roma.
hours after meeting J.D.
The Pope
Vance.
who blessed Rome
That's crazy.
gave his blessing to the world, to the entire world, that morning of Easter.
I hope
Allow
this
me
guy's the real deal.
to follow
Yeah,
up
for sure.
on that blessing. God
Me too.
loves us. God loves everyone. Evil will not prevail.
That's good.
We are all in the hands of God. Therefore, without fear,
he's giving a world buff?
united,
Is this
hand in
it?
hand with God and amongst ourselves, let us go forward. We are the disciples of Christ. Christ goes before us. The world needs his light.
Global buff, yeah.
Humanity needs him like the bridge to God and his love. Help us and all others to build bridges with dialogue, with meeting, to be one common people, living
like a nice
always
thing
in
to say.
peace.
You all right?
Thank you to Pope Francis.
Wow. More bridge builders? Yep.
Voglio ringraziare
More bridge
anche
builders,
tutti
I
less
should
dick
also like to
suckers.
thank
confratelli cardinali
all
che
my
hanno scelto me
cardinal brethren
per essere
who have chosen me
successore di
to
Pietro
be the
e
successor
camminare
of Peter
insieme a voi
and
come
to
Chiesa unita,
walk with you
cercando
as a
sempre
united
la pace,
church,
la giustizia,
always seeking
cercando
peace and
sempre
justice,
lavorare come
seeking
uomini
to
e
work
donne
with
fedeli a Gesù Cristo.
men and women who are faithful to Jesus Christ, without fear,
Another
to
activist pope?
proclaim
You
the
think so?
gospel, to be missionaries.
Sono
The United Church of America.
un figlio di
For sure.
Sant'Agostino.
I am a son of St. Augustine, Augustinian.
Che ha
He's not
detto
woke.
Augustine who said,
con voi
I'll look
sono
it up after this.
cristiano e per
with
voi
you I am a
vescovo.
Christian,
In
and
questo
for you
senso
a
possiamo
bishop.
tutti
And I think in that sense we
camminare
can all walk
verso
together
quella patria
to that
la quale
homeland,
Dio ci ha preparato.
that home which God has prepared for us.
It must be crazy to be able to watch
Alla
this in real life.
Chiesa
To the Church
di Roma, un
of
saluto
Rome.
speciale.
A very special greeting.
Yeah, wouldn't that be nuts? Yeah, think about that.
Dobbiamo cercare insieme come essere una chiesa missionaria.
We have to seek
Una chiesa
together
che costruisce
to be a missionary church, a church that builds
aperta a ricevere
bridges
come questa
and
piazza con le
dialogue,
braccia aperte.
always
A tutti,
ready to
tutti
accept,
coloro che
like
hanno
this
bisogno
great
della
piazza
nostra carità,
with its
della nostra
arms.
presenza,
We
il
have to show our
dialogo,
charity,
l'amore.
presence, and be in dialogue
Se me permiten
with love.
también una palabra, un saludo
And I'd also like to say a greeting
a todos aquellos,
in Spanish to all those
y
who,
modo particular a mi querida diócesis de Chiclayo en el
People
Perú.
from Spain?
and particularly to my dearest beloved diocese in Peru,
Donde
That's where he
un
came from.
pueblo fiel
where a faithful
acompañado
people
Where he worked at
a su
for a long time.
obispo, ha
accompanied
compartido su fe
their
y ha dado
bishop
tanto
to share their faith with him, and who has done so much to be a faithful church. To all you, brothers and sisters of Rome, of Italy, of the entire world, we must be a synodal church, one which goes forward and which always seeks peace, charity, and to be close to those who suffer.
Damn, I got them all out there.
Today,
il giorno della supplica alla Madonna di Pompei.
A pope for modern
this
audiences.
is the day of the supplication to the Madonna of Pompeii. Our Mother Mary always wanted to accompany us and be near us, to help us with her love. And I should like to, therefore, pray together with you. Let us pray for this new mission, for the entire church and for peace in the world. And let us ask for this special grace from Mary, our God.
Seems all right to me.
Hail Mary, full of grace.
I had to say these after I admitted to the priest.
You are blessed amongst all women,
never mind.
and blessed be the fruit
Never
of your
mind.
womb.
Yeah.
Holy Mary, pray for
I
us
had to say
sinners,
these after confession multiple times.
and be present at the hour of our death. Amen.
Yeah. Multiple ones, yeah. Well, there it is. Holy shit. So it looks like we've got a new pope now. I'll see if there's any information about the new pope or what we know about him at all. I have no idea. Okay. Well, this is great. Okay, so yeah, it looks like the internet's taking this really well. They're super happy about the American Pope. There's a tremendous amount of support for it. The new Pope got voted by Trump. Yeah, people are already saying Trump made them elect an American Pope, right, guys? Give me a second before I pull up any information about this. Let's see here. First Damn, bro, there it is. Wow. Depending on his politics, we might have picked them as a way to slight Trump. I honestly don't think that probably had anything to do with it. Meet the new American Pope. Of course, he's anti-MAGA and woke. Another open borders Pope. What is this here? J.D. Vance is wrong. Jesus doesn't ask us to rank our love for others. What is this here? Is Trump and Bukele used Oval to Fed solicit deportation? Do you not see him suffering? Is conscience not disturbed? What is this here? Pope Francis Laro, J.D. Vance, Odu Amoris, and what the gospel asks all of us on immigration. Again, like I don't know if this is the introduction right here or not. And congratulations, Leo the 14th, first American Pope on his election. Yeah, there it is. American Augustine Order, registered Republican, opposes female deacons, wears traditional garments, openly critical of Western decline. Well, I guess we're just gonna have to wait and find out, right, guys? Yeah, has he used Twitter? Does everybody expect people to agree with Trump? Yes, unironically. Yeah, that's basically the way that a lot of them see things. In 2012 address, he voiced concerns that Western culture promotes sympathy for beliefs and practices that contradict the gospel, specifically referencing the homosexual lifestyle and alternative families made up of same-sex partners and their adopted children. Oh boy. Oh boy, oh boy. Okay. Well, this could have been 2012. He might have changed his viewpoints. It's hard really to say. We'll scroll down. We'll find the rest of them. New Pope. What the fuck is a kilometer? Yeah, bro. Like they got to amend the Bible. Get out all of these centimeters, millimeters, and like kilometers. Move all of it back to miles and feet. And you can't change your views when you follow dogma. Well, I think plenty of people are able to do that. But there it is. So it looks like we have ourselves the first ever American Pope. Fine. my God. Oh my fucking God. Where is this coming from, guys? This is insane. And the Vatican City, now that we have an American Pope? Wait, this is the new Vatican? Wait, what? What do you mean? So the first American Pope is a libtard? Weird thing, a Pope? I don't know. I mean, if they disagree with the Pope, the new Pope is pro-immigration, believes that America is plagued by racism, and encourage vaccinations. I join my voice. This is just him retweeting. Like, I want to see what he said exactly himself, right? Let's see. Is this? Yeah, this is just him retweeting bullshit. Yeah, an American Pope, you say? There it is. Oh, fuck. And they say it, not the woke Filipino. Is that it? And, wow. Well, I'll see if there's any more information about this. Jesus cooked making Trump? I guess so, right? And let's see. Yeah, apparently is our Turning Point action team pulled the voting history for Pope Leo. He's a registered Republican who has voted in Republican primaries when not living abroad. Our data shows he's a strong Republican and pro-life. Well, I could easily expect that. I mean, yeah, probably. Yeah, a strong conservative. Okay. Oh, here's another quote from him here. Oh, this is Pope Leo. Wait, this is him meeting Pope John Paul? Damn. Damn, this is from like 300 years ago. It's an oil painting? Yeah, I guess so, right? And let's see if I can find it here. The promotion of gender ideology is confusing because it seeks to create genders that don't exist. Pope Leo the 14th. Oh boy. Well, you know, let's see. We cannot rebuild trust society if we discard the weakest, whether a child in the womb, the elderly, and the frailty, or both gifts from God. Okay, sure, that's fine. People who think they can follow Christ in their own way without being part of the body, are living in a distortion. Oh man.
Pope, and the Pope is from Chicago. What do we actually know about this new Pope? Well, the Pope is from Chicago. I am as well. He served in Peru. By the way, I'm not Catholic, by the way. I'm evangelical, but it still matters who the Pope is. He is a registered Republican and voted in Republican primaries and ran a pro-life group at Villanova University, so that's a good sign. Also has some, let's just say, not so great tweets about having some willingness for open borders. We'll see kind of how he is on that. Also some George Floyd stuff that I'm not too crazy about. But overall, it seems like he's a pro-life warrior. There's a lot yet to learn about this Pope, but I hope that he will be a strong advocate for strong borders.
Could just be a leftoid social media manager.
First ever American Pope. You gotta wonder, why is it that they picked an American Pope? Could be a coincidence, could be nothing. Or
Shut up. Like, it's not because of Donald. Are you really gonna... You're not gonna do this, are you? You're not going to fucking do this. Like, I could get memeing around, right? But there's no way you're about to pull this shit.
Is that they want a voice that is also for the opening of American borders while we have President Trump. Who knows?
I don't think so.
Let's see. But by the way,
any messaging from the Vatican about opening borders is going to go directly into the garbage. You cannot live in a walled city and then advocate for open borders. Really? I mean, what are we doing here?
Biblical. Close your borders. Love your people. You should, of course, love everyone.
Yes.
The best way to love them is to have them make their countries great.
Put them in El Salvador prisons.
And our God is a God of order, a God of structure, and does not want millions of people who we do not know coming into our country in the dilution of sovereignty. So there's a new Pope. A lot more to learn about it, and congratulations to all Catholics who are excited about it.
Yeah.
Some people are saying he's super liberal. We know he was a registered Republican. Time will tell. And we'll keep all Christians in our prayers, Catholics included, that this is for the betterment of humanity.
Well, we'll see what happens, right? I mean, I would say, like, overall, I don't think this had anything to do with Donald Trump. I just don't think so. But, you know, I guess we're going to have to find. No, Patrick is not a progressive. Probably not. Pope Leo is critical of Western media's portrayal of homosexual lifestyle. He viewed these representations as being at odds with the gospel. Well, I mean, like, look, I'm not a religious wizard, right? But from what I've heard is that the Bible's not a fan of being gay. I haven't heard anything good about being gay in the Bible. Yeah, I hear a lot of bad things about it, though. I've noticed that. No, you're not. Yeah, I know, guys. Since when? I don't know. Probably about like 2,000 years ago, somewhere around there. And let's see if I can find Pope. Dude. Oh, God. And this one time in 2024, spoke out against gay marriage. She supported George Floyd, enforced COVID vax, and mass migration. I don't know exactly what this is. I guess we're going to have to find out. And let's see if there's rest. He reposted an article about a guy winning a championship. So he watches basketball. Okay, cool. And this is about some guy getting deported. Well, I guess that's it, gentlemen. We have ourselves the new Pope. What do you guys think? L Pope or W Pope? What do you think, guys? W Pope for now. Time will tell. Yeah. I mean, there is a part of me that's a little bit disappointed that they didn't. I mean, I guess there was like no way they were going to elect like a schizo pope, right? Like that Cardinal Sarah guy. Like there was like a 0% chance of that happening. But like I was imagining this happening, right? That would be fucking crazy. Yeah, and yeah, this guy, I feel like this guy seems pretty mild in general. Like this is what my viewpoint is. I think this seems like a very mild-mannered, you know, kind of traditional, centrist, like, this doesn't seem like it's a, like, Pope Francis was a pretty big shift. I think that Pope fucking Benedict was also kind of more of a shift towards traditionalism. I think this guy's kind of in the middle, I'd say. Yeah, it's a safe pick. Yeah, boring pick. Yeah, it's not a crazy Pope. There's nothing else nuts going on. Yeah, less progressive. It seems that way, right? But see his reposts? I did see his reposts, but who knows whether he's running that account? I have no idea. These 4 pictures are why I have faith in Pope Leo. So this is John Paul. This is Benedict. Francis. Oh, he's got the same armor set on. Yeah, he pretty much does. Yeah. Damn. Bro, he's using the same set? Yeah, I guess so. Looking at guys around him, I don't know if it's the same guy or not. But, yeah, I have no idea. I'd say, yeah, the same loadout. Yeah, there you go. And same cosmetics, bring back the gear. I mean, to be fair, like, I mean, I kind of liked what Pope Francis did in some ways. But I do think that, and it sounds stupid, but whenever they're all dressed up in their full raid gear, it does look cool. It does. It does. It looks cool, and it's like, why can't they look cool as well, right? Yeah, why not? Yeah, it's got the drip. Yeah, I think that people can respect the drip a little bit. But, you know, I think this guy kind of went a little bit too far with, you know, that stuff. But, you know, maybe this is like a bit of a calibration in the middle. So, yeah, raid gear. Yeah, definitely. Palpatine. Well, this guy, I mean, my understanding of this guy is that he was actually, out of even all 4 of them, to the best of my understanding, he was like by far the most educated, right? Like this guy was like a fucking like level 90 wizard pope, right? And like the other guys, maybe not so much. He was? Yeah, he was like the most educated one out of all of them. Yeah, wrote books. Yeah, exactly, right? And so he was a literal Nazi. Well, that's not so good, is it? I don't think the Pope was a Nazi, by the way. I think that's a bit much. But, yeah, an American Pope. There it is, gentlemen. Pope Leo is already destroying the forces of darkness. Oh, God. I think people should be a little bit more careful. We pray for Mr. George Floyd and his family. What's wrong with praying for George Floyd? Does George Floyd not deserve to go to heaven? I mean, come on. What if he... I thought George Floyd turned his life around. I mean, besides doing fentanyl, I mean, like, I don't know. Yeah, who do they follow? Yeah, I don't know. Maybe he's in heaven, maybe not. I don't know, guys. I guess maybe one day, hopefully, we'll find out. Ah, shit, again? Breaking Columbia protesters are once again occupying the Butler Library while chanting from the river to... Jesus Christ.
The composition. The frequency at which music and sound would play was also carefully considered.
Hi, I'm Mark Brown, and this is Game Maker's Toolkit. Whenever people talk about good AI, they invariably come back to the same three examples. I'm talking about the replica soldiers in the original F.E.A.R, the various aliens in the Halo series, and the Marines in the first Half-Life game. And yes, these games do have some really clever behaviours, and Halo 2 and F.E.A.R actually pioneered some new AI technologies that are still being used in games today. But one other thing these games have in common is that they all feature particularly aggressive enemies who actively try to hunt down and kill the player, and also have a lot of health points so they can stick around for longer. And this is something that makes these enemies feel a lot smarter. But don't take my word for it, this is something that Bungie knew all the way back in the first Halo game. During development, it set up a playtest with two versions of the game, with the exact same enemy AI on both. But on one machine, the aliens didn't do much damage and died quickly, and on the other, they did more damage and had more hit points. The number of players who thought the enemies were very intelligent jumped from 8% to 43%, when playing against more resilient enemies. But the thing is, aggressive enemies just don't work for every type of game. This is something that id Software found out during the development of Doom 2016. It started with enemies that would chase you down, but this made players act defensively. We'd end up in these situations where you would instantly start backing up, said director Marty Stratton. Instead, the studio told the enemies to hold their ground a bit more and let the player be the one who's pushing forward. So, just like everything else in game design, AI must fit the game's intended experience. Which means while aggressive AI fits the Xenomorph in Alien Isolation, it would be wildly out of place in Batman Arkham Asylum. No one gets the drop on Batman, after all. And this all means that there must be more to good AI than just enemies who can kill the player. And that's exactly what I'm going to talk about in this video. with everything from good general practices to examples of truly ambitious and ingenious AI. Good AI lets the player cheat, just not in ways that the player will actually notice, like how you can put a bucket on a shopkeeper's head in Skyrim and rob them blind. So hopefully in more subtle ways, like how in the Uncharted games, when you pop out of cover, enemies will start with a 0% chance to hit Drake, giving you a chance to take a few shots. In the Far Cry games, only a few enemies will be allowed to shoot at you at once to improve your odds of winning the fight. And in the Arkham games, enemies are told not to turn around during the Predator sections so Batman can sneak up behind his prey. These are things that the player should never really notice, but you would definitely feel their absence if they weren't there. It's all about making the game feel more fair, even if most games are actually biased wildly in the player's favour. Good AI tells you what it's thinking. This is most often done through short vocal clips, known as barks, where patrolling guards say things like,
"Sounds like someone's over there."
And
must be nothing.
But this can also be expressed through animation and body language, or with more gamey elements like vision cones, light and noise sensors, and those ghostly images that show you where the enemy last saw you. I will talk about how much of this stuff you want to surface to the player and how much you want to keep a bit fuzzy when I talk about stealth games in a future video. A different way to achieve this is to give AI characters distinct personalities, like the coloured ghosts in Pac-Man, or the different leaders in Civilization's single-player modes who all have their own unique quirks. Developers have actually found that this stuff makes AI characters seem smarter to players. Because if an AI has complex decision-making and perception skills, like being able to notice that a door along their patrol path has been opened, the player may never know that the guard is capable of such a thought if they don't open their mouth and say, "Did I leave that door open?" But this is also critical feedback that the player can use to understand what the AI is doing, or is about to do, and can plan accordingly. Which brings me onto this next one. Good AI is predictable, which sounds odd, but hear me out. In 2004, Halo tech lead Chris Butcher said, "The goal is not to create something that is unpredictable. What you want is an artificial intelligence that is consistent so that the player can do things and expect the AI will react in a certain way." This allows you to play a game with intentionality, which Far Cry 2 designer Clint Hocking defined as the ability for the player to devise his own meaningful goals through his understanding of the game dynamics. To break that down a bit, when you play a game, you start to build up an understanding of how different things work. Like, you shoot a red barrel, it explodes, and now, going forward, you know that every time you see a red barrel, you can shoot it to create an explosion and can use this to your advantage. But this applies to AI behavior too. If guards always return dropped guns to crates, and turning off a generator will always make an enemy come check it out, you can then use this information to create plans, diversions, and traps. Without predictable behavior, the player can't create satisfying plans. Halo Man Butcher gave the example of sneaking up behind a grunt and the grunt running away. It would be bad if they only ran away half of the time, because then the player can build a plan that will only work half of the time. Instead, Bungie went for predictable actions, but unpredictable consequences. The grunt will always run away, said Butcher, but you don't necessarily know where he'll run away to. So predictability certainly doesn't mean easy. Take a game like Spelunky, where every enemy acts in an almost completely scripted fashion, which would make them effortless to avoid or kill until the enemies start appearing in big groups, begin to navigate different environments, and start interacting with other characters. Now, it's Spelunky. Good AI can interact with the game's systems. This is like how an enemy in Breath of the Wild doesn't just walk up to Link and start wailing on him, but will run off and pick up dropped weapons, set their wooden clubs alight, kick away bombs, and even throw their fellow monsters at you. Oh, that's gotta hurt. Again, this has the added benefit of making an AI character seem smart. An enemy in BioShock who runs to a health dispenser midway through a fight, looks like he is aware of his surroundings, is interested in self-preservation, and feels like he has similar abilities to the player. But it also means you can screw them over by putting a trap on the health dispenser. By exposing an AI to the game's systems, we can provide loads of interesting ways to deal with foes in a more roundabout fashion, like making an enemy fight for you in Prey, or tricking an enemy into attacking a cuckoo so this happens. By the way, I propose we call this chicken boning an enemy. Good AI reacts to the player. This can be as simple as guards becoming more frightened as you take out their buddies in the Batman games, or something as complex as Shadow of Mordor. In that game, special orc captains are randomly generated with names, abilities, and relationships, and will then remember their interactions with the hero. If you run away from a battle, for example, the orc might reference this next time they see you.
Hi! Not letting you run this time. Oh, he's gonna finish it.
This is a great way to create memorable and very personal stories for the player.
Your death will bring me even more glory.
Tracking the player can also be used to adapt the way the AI works. This doesn't need to be as clever as the shadow fighters in the new Killer Instinct, or the Drivatar system in the Forza games, where Microsoft tracks the way you play and can create AI doppelgangers to race or fight for you. Really, it can be as simple as something like in Metal Gear Solid 5, where enemies track things like how often you perform headshots, take out bases without being seen, or infiltrate during the dark, and then change to different behaviour like wearing helmets, laying traps, or using night vision goggles. These are all things that the AI has been told how to do. It's not actually learning, but it just won't do them until the player hits a certain threshold, and the intended effect is stopping the player from using the same boring strategy for every base in Afghanistan. A similar system is used in Alien Isolation, where the alien unlocks new abilities as the game goes on to make it look like the xenomorph is learning from the player and to keep the game interesting as the hours tick by. Adapting the AI to the player is also used to build a good mood or drive the game's pacing. The most famous implementation of this is certainly the AI director in Left 4 Dead. This clever system tracks the well-being of each player based on their health and run-ins with the special infected, and if the team is cruising along, the intensity of the zombie horde is increased before the AI director eases off to give the team a chance to relax. But this tech isn't as new as you might think, and something similar was actually used in Pac-Man. Designer Tora Iwatani said, "I felt like it would be too stressful for Pac-Man to be continually surrounded and hunted down, so I created the monsters' invasions to come in waves." So, in the game, ghosts swap between chasing the player and just wandering off into the four corners of the maze. Good AI has its own goals, beyond kill the player, I mean. This game is Rainworld, by the way, where other animals in the game are hunting for food and will end up in territorial scraps with rivals. Sometimes it's best to just let them get on with it. That's also how Stalker Shadow of Chernobyl works, or is supposed to work. Bandits make plans and then wander about the wasteland alone or in groups to enact those plans, meaning you could come across a raging battle that only occurred because two rival factions happened to accidentally run into one another. The AI is a bit buggy though, and you will need to install mods if you want the AI to be doing stuff outside of your immediate location. But Stalker's A-Life system sure was ambitious, and we certainly need more games like it. Or maybe more games like Waking Mars, a captivating sci-fi indie game about increasing biodiversity in the belly of the Red Planet. When you figure out how different plants and animals react to one another, you can forge self-sufficient ecosystems where AI critters can live and breed, even while you're exploring a completely different part of Mars. Finally, good AI isn't just about enemies, and we need better friendlies, because even in games with great combat encounters, the good guys can be as dumb as dirt.
Hello.
Now, some developers just cheat and make their AI companions invincible, like Elizabeth in BioShock Infinite, who can't get hurt during combat. Probably a wise decision given the tumultuous history of escort missions in games. But there are other uses for friendly characters than just defenseless girls who follow the male hero around. In The Last Guardian, you work with a giant beast called Trico who can take care of enemies. But Trico is nervous around stained glass windows that you can smash. This means the player and the AI must work together, something which can get a bit frustrating when Trico has been specifically told to ignore the player's instructions about half the time in an attempt to make it seem more like an animal. In Event Zero, developer Ocelot Society was inspired by internet chatbots to make a game where you can talk with an artificial intelligence and work with it to solve puzzles on a derelict spaceship. I've got much more on that game in an earlier video. And then, in Final Fantasy XV, one of your road trip buddies, Prompto, is capable of snapping Instagram shots during your adventure. At specific triggers, or just when Prompto feels like it, he'll automatically take a picture and later present you with an album full of snaps to sift through.
Damn, this is a really good shot.
I made sure I got the regalia's good side.
This has basically no gameplay value, but is a lovely way of preserving your personal experience with the game, and adds tremendous amounts to Prompto's character. Now, none of this is to say that we don't want simply better AI. Stupid enemy decisions can pull us straight out of an experience, and players derive little satisfaction from beating an obviously unintelligent opponent. Okay, maybe it is quite satisfying. But developers should always be trying to make further advancements in AI tech and create more nuanced behaviors for enemies. But it's important to remember that AI isn't just a technical problem, it's also a design problem, and every game should approach the subject in a slightly different way. Sure, we do need more games that are about fighting a tactical squad of aggressive enemies, because something's clearly not quite right when most modern shooters are still lagging behind a campy 13-year-old game. But it's important not to lose sight of the real goal. In Uncharted 4, Naughty Dog experimented with complex AI behaviors before settling on enemies who were, according to designer Matthew Gallant, spread out in a layout, looking human and smart, and moving in ways that are mildly predictable so the player has some ability to sneak up behind them. Because a patrolling guard's goal isn't to find the player, it's to present interesting gameplay. Hey, thanks for watching. Game Maker's Toolkit is powered by almost 2,000 patrons, which is absurd. They're also invited to a private Discord server to chat about games, game design, and our game club. It's actually a really nice atmosphere, very cozy. Anyway, I'd like to recommend the YouTube channel AI and Games, which is run by Tommy Thompson and is a great resource for finding out about the AI technology behind your favorite games. Oh, and links to all the articles
All right, ladies and gentlemen, I have to give praise, you know? I have to give praise to G2 because I think that they showcased the strongest adaptation to Spirit Blossom Patch, in my opinion. So the big thing for me with the Spirit Blossom Patch is that the grubs is a huge central point, and the momentum you carry from bottom side is insanely important. We had this game where they slammed a tank. So a big difference, right? If you take a look at G2, a big problem for them is that in order for them to have a very streamlined idea of how to play the game, playing tanks simplifies it very much. Why? First, BB can be weak side. BB can be weak side, and also BB contributes into the 4, right? When Caps he contributes into the 4 in a 4-1. So when we take a look at things in terms of G2's history, when you look at where they were the most successful in this year, right? In this fucking year, you take a look at their winter. Where did they have the most success? It was exactly when they were playing the tanks. And the game was a lot more streamlined because obviously in winter there was still lane swaps active. but a big and important solution for them when they beat Casey for example, the first time. Tanks were crucial in that. If you take a look at this win streak that they made in the regular split, if you just take a look at this game, this game, this game, this game, it was all BB on tank, BB on tank, BB on tank, BB on tank, and Cher is also playing a tank, but that's irrelevant to my point. And it streamlines the macro, because in mid-game, support just needs to mark, and they need to just right-click into Caps' lane, give him info to push, which is something that Caps loves. This is so important now because Caps needs to play champions that can be killed in isolation, right? Against, for example, a Pantheon. In the past, the macro was like he played Tristana and he can do crazy things. Yon can do crazy things, right? When he plays these champions, he still does crazy things. But now, when the meta being Talia, Azir, and then Victor / Orianna, pretty much mages, he needs some backup at times. And when you know already that BB always is going to be fine on the weak side, and you don't need to, create tempo swings to defend them, it becomes very streamlined to just right-click onto Caps' lane. So in terms of them figuring out the recipe, they pick the strongest AD. Teams also are aware of this, right? They ban Varus and Kalista. And the follow-up is simple. They create a circumstance where they carry momentum from bot, and with that momentum from bot, they create scenarios where they create swaps. Obviously, Sion has TP into bottom side, and what happens on the first initial base is that regardless of the tempo of bot, Sion can always TP into bottom side, push one wave, so Vitality is forced to match. Any team is forced to match. And the cool thing about playing a swap-oriented game, and the main thing to pay attention to, is that G2 always need a bot lane that can contest. If their bot lane can't contest and create momentum in the game, then they're going to lose out always when they swap. In this particular case, they have Ezreal and Leona into Xayah and Alistar, Varus Kalista being out, Ezreal very strong early levels because of his Q. They can create a scenario where they, of course, push. So they're always going to solve any carry pick like Vladimir picked into Sion. They're going to solve it by, of course, having a bot lane that pushes. That's the crucial thing. Let's continue. At the TP, Kazi uses sums, they have winning bot, and then here on the 4-minute timer is very important, the 4-minute timer. The 4-minute timer is extremely important because 4:30 is a cannon. So with the cannon wave, they can stack a wave and maybe dive Vladimir, and also the same thing on bottom side. It's just if the enemy overstays, you're going to carry tempo over and you're going to have a good time. It's just a cannon wave. You base before cannon wave, very, very good stuff. So now they open on top side. Now BB is going to just TP bot, and Nak Nak is going to match because they're aware of this. BB now, of course, looking to crash this cannon. Early levels for Sion very easy against Vladimir. Vladimir needs to, of course, scale into the lane. Now you have this lane assignment here, where Leona is into top side, and Vitality is forced to match, of course. And then it becomes less of a focus on Drake, of course, because they're looking to be in time for the grubbies. They look to crash this wave, and then the next one coming out is, again, the cannon wave. And Sion already based, so Ezreal Leona is forcing their base, so they're looking to crash into top side, and they base on cannon again. Ezreal goes into bottom side, and like this, they're getting their bases in, and they're carrying, of course, the tempo very well. Now Sion is in a mismatch, and Vitality's bot lane didn't base yet. And Vladimir is not pushing the bot cannon wave fast enough, because of course the 6-minute wave is also cannon. 4:30 cannon, and so forth. So getting your base in at 4 is very crucial to make sure that if the enemy stays and tries to push cannon, you still carry momentum over, and the same thing for 6. So Sion based after crashing the bot wave, and then he based into top side, and then Ezreal and Leona just based dry. Well, Leona got cancelled, right, but Ezreal just based dry, and then Leona crossed into mid. And now you see that Niski and Kazi don't have the best conditions, and Vladimir didn't base yet on bottom side. And this is how they've solved and basically cracked their whole early game. And always create a scenario where their tanky Sion is very happy in the game because he can leverage his biggest strength. And now with this tempo swing, with Vladimir being on bottom side, Leona crosses into mid, and they, of course, commit all the way to the dragon. And now this is, of course, the big reason why such a strategy works, because the counterplay into the Scion isn't super clean. It's the same in game 2, where, of course, BB picked Kisante. So Vitality don't have enough numbers on bottom side. They try to go on to Scion, and they try to, of course, kill him, regardless of the outcome here. 1 for 1. Sion is very happy because he gets majority of the wave, and Vitality's tempo is awful, while Ezreal and Leona are quite fresh on bottom side, with, of course, good condition. So Scrimond hovers onto mid, Caps gets prio, Scrimond is 6, and they push out Vladimir. The moment Vladimir, gives up the majority wave, they just start channeling recall. They know Alistar's tempo into bottom, which is, phenomenal play. G2 have found their team play again, and they're playing really, really good for tempo. So here they are not delaying. What I really, really like about this sequence, right, is that once again, this is a cannon wave. So the 730 wave is a cannon wave, and they are basing to be on time for the grubbies. In situations where you base an open bottom side with your bot lane, you can crack this wave, kill this wave, and then cross into mid and be in time for the grub spawn. The grubs being super, super important now, because the big difference is the void grubs right now, the effect of 3 is equivalent to the effect of 4/5. So you take the objective once, and also you already have very early on in the game the huge advantage in mismatch scenarios. So let's just take a look at the continuation. So you have Alistar already showing into bottom side, which is, of course, a mistake. And then it means that Ezreal and Leona are faster into top side. They start the grubs because Alistar showed them bot. I don't know why Alistar showed them bot. Like here, Alistar showing on bot is quite bad. Kazi tempo is quite bad, and you see Ezreal is already opening on top side. Alistar could have been on mid lane right now, and they could have played a little bit of a faster game. Kazi is now here, and then Vitality are not ready because Chayak also didn't base. That's the cool thing about this whole situation, is that G2 take prio and they all base, right? So the huge crucial timers is the 4 into 430, right? The 6 and the 730, all cannon waves. All cannon waves, right? That's what everything that they are doing is centered around. And what's cool here is that Talia, Vi, and of course G2's bot lane get to sync up their bases. And as you can see, Jace stays for this cannon. If Jace bases and doesn't push that cannon, he's on the map right now. But Jace is not on the map. Vladimir is not on the map. Nobody's on the map. So it means they can take grubs for free, because every one of G2's members are all playing on the same momentum. It's really, really clean League of Legends. They play their sequences in cannon wave blocks. So it's 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, which is super, super cool. I think G2 has done a fantastic job of kind of reinventing themselves in the Spirit Blossom patch. So they have the grubs, they have the Drake. Now they are like super, super happy, right? In any mismatch scenario, they crash the bot wave and Jace is catching, so they take any fight in river. Sion also has TP advantage, so they're super, super happy. This is just game over already, because obviously Vitality here is taking a fight with bad numbers. And the main thing is, right, they lose some summoners, but BB can easily cross into top side and go again. Ezreal's going to bot. And G2 just have momentum all over the place. They create a scenario here where they are mismatching, which is also the big benefit. If they're playing for tempo, right? They can always create scenarios where they mismatch. So even though Vitality here is hitting the Drake on bot lane that is even, they're very, very happy in this scenario. Ezreal's on mid wave, he's not under any threat. And then Naknaku has to flash out. Eventually Naknaku will die here, obviously. And they are super happy because once again, they have 3 grubs. Any mismatch is super, super good. Zaya's hitting bottom tower, but it doesn't really matter. Sion can easily cross into bot and, start taking over. G2 hold on to top. They push out all the way. And here we're going to see a scenario where they open on bottom side. Talia is looking to catch one more wave because it's not cannon. Now she bases, and then BB will also look to recall and open on top. I think here BB should have based. I don't know why he didn't base. I think he should have based and open top. I think it's a slight mistake. Caps crosses into topside instead, and they maintain their matchups, because I do think that they are going to cross into bottom side. There's a small discussion in chat about, you know, I really want to believe that City Watchmith should swap to support. But guys, it's a very different thing when he swaps and has 1 month to prepare. Like, this is his first split, and he didn't have enough time to prepare. Like, this was too impromptu to make a, like, comprehensive decision about people being able to role swap into support and doing well. This kid has had some fine games, he has had some horrible games, but I think his circumstance is not, like, ideal for what it is, you know? Like, I think if somebody switches to support, like, for example, when Perks switched to AD, they used the whole off-season Mickey and Perks to fucking duo queue. They did, like, 500 games, you know? So, I think the early game is the most interesting aspect. We could take a look at how G2 kind of convert. I think that they just do a good job of pushing outsides, basing, keeping momentum. G2, like Niski was kind of hinting, it is what it is. Let's take a look at the map open. Here, on even lanes, they just cross into topside, making sure that Jace can't push the neutral wave. They want to defend it, but instead they find the play on mid with Talia ult, because the enemy has no tier 2. The game is finished. Let's take a look at the same concepts in game 2, how they play around it, because we have a Kesante. I don't know where I got Kesante from. Jax, I mean. They have a Jax. Let's see how they play the same concepts. So they have Varus and Renata. Obviously, this is a winning lane for G2 into the Nautilus. They're very, very strong. Because G2 don't apply the same concepts here, because they have to base a lot earlier on bot. So they just cross into bottom side. Vitality just had very, very little prior on grubs. I think game 1 was a little bit more interesting than this. But I think the big one here is just BB managing to get the solo kill in the skill matchup, which of course swings the game very, very heavily. That happened this moment here on bot. And after Caps died, Vitality didn't get the bursts off. Like, this is just game winning. So BB seems to be completely back. Okay. Well, either way, to summarize, I think G2's awareness of how they need to assign the lanes and how they need to make sure that Caps has information and vision, I feel like that's the biggest change up. I like that Lavrov is a little bit more active and, you know, moves a little bit more into sides to make sure that Caps has information and vision. Because I think in terms of them managing their economy, I think that's the biggest like change up for them. I think G2 also, like a big criticism I had towards them is that they don't fight compact enough and they don't fight around like specific areas. And I think that they've changed that up. Like here, I think it's a little bit bad that you don't have vision over where Aatrox is coming from, because this of course could get very dangerous here, a fight like this. Wow. The end. Osama gets a very, very good flash. I think if they had the information on Aatrox, it just becomes a lot easier, because the fight became very hard for Osama to play. I'm so confused because we have perma and replay here, so I'm trying to figure out how Niski died. Niski is just trolling here. He just wasted so much time after putting wards, just stuck around. I think it's really, really cool though that G2 like recognized, because they pushed out bot all the way, that they will be 5-man first into the enemy topside jungle. So they're just skipping mid wave and rushing. I think this is a really, really good read from G2. And Vitality had no concept of the tempo here and completely lost. All right, I think that's it for the G2 Vid series. I think G2 is looking like they are back. I think in terms of adapting to the new patch, I think that they have done a great job. So respect to them. I don't think Vitality played super well, but I feel like LEC is up for grabs, because I think you know, Fnatic still looks kind of dirty, and KC looked a lot better against the Rogue, but I need to see a bit from KC. I think of course, the spring split is completely up in the air. It's kind of hype. Predictions. You gave them. I'll take a look. I'll judge you for them and interpret how likely they are to happen. Fnatic is the only team to make quarters at Worlds this year. The weird thing about the format for Worlds, right? Knowing the Swiss format and so forth, this is a possible thing, but I don't think it's going to be based on merit. I think in terms of how the global landscape is right now, in terms of overall League of Legends level, I do think there's going to be an element of luck that, of course, is going to bring teams to quarterfinals, depending on, of course, their draws. The angle that you can go for here, in my mind, I do think Fnatic has the highest potential ceiling out of the current teams in terms of playstyle and in terms of, let's say, macro knowledge, but they have a very, very low floor. I do think that Fnatic, there can be a world where Fnatic is the strongest team being sent to an international event, although trusting them to go far is a difficult thing because you know that they have, that very, very low floor in comparison to, of course, the other teams that are, comparable, like KC, G2, FlyQuest, and so on. So can Fnatic be lucky enough to make it to the next level? Maybe. Can I see them beating LCK teams or LPL teams on their merit? Maybe a 4th seed. A 3rd seed is going to already get tricky. I think that through the force of randomness, maybe. Dom says, T1 doesn't make MSI or Worlds or wins one singular game for the rest of the year and then disband. One singular game, Dom. One singular game. At least, at least give us something to work with, Dom. If the angle is that T1 don't make MSI and they don't make Worlds, then I guess there could be like a form of disbandment happening because, the main concern is Faker going to retire? Are players going to be tired of all things, all things together? Is there going to be place for a player like Korea and Owner on some of the other teams? I can definitely see a world where, just imagine for a second, imagine a world where Gen G had Korea and Owner. That doesn't sound fair to me. And the main question then is, can T1 then, offer enough of a checkbook to bring players back to them? They are building up for, this whole build up. Everything is first MSI, then Worlds, and then after Worlds. That off season is going to be so damn crucial about the future of T1 because they have captured lightning in the bottle, and that bottle is showing a lot of cracks currently. G2 League of Legends say, we randomly lock in and speedrun all the way to 0-3 World Final again this year. I like that they say randomly. Part of the magic was G2, G2 as a team. When they look at their worst, they find a way to be Fnatic. The thing is, about G2's badness right now, I think it comes from the purest place. When I say purest place, I mean their level is genuinely bad. There is no signs of, fatigue or laziness, that we saw in previous splits. It's like, oh, it's G2, they'll figure this out. I don't think this is true anymore. I think individual level looks very low, macro level looks low, draft level looks very low. While I do think G2 can figure some of these things out, I feel like the theoretical ceiling of this team, as based on what we've seen so far, is the lowest we probably have ever seen when it comes to G2 in the context of the other teams as well. Because the main point of comparison would be the G2 roster with Targamas and, Broken Blade and Jankos and Caps. But I feel like that roster at the time when that was conceived still, a little bit more exciting in terms of the potential ceiling in comparison to what this is now. G2 currently, you guys need to show me a lot of fucking new shit before I start believing you guys again, because right now it's looking ugly. And if you can't figure out LEC, ain't no way you're making a World Finals. And the fact that G2 League dropped it randomly, bro, it doesn't even sound like the social media manager believes in this fucking take. So this is Dom's counterpart. T1 is going to harness the devil's magic and somehow miraculously switch it on 1 week before playoffs and qualify to MSI. I want to remind everybody, they almost lost to KT Game 5 to qualify to the World Championship. They lost to Damwon. Do you guys remember how bad Damwon was that year with Moham and fucking Kingen sprinting it? They lost to Damwon to send them to the World Championship, when truly the best two teams that should have gone was T1 and KT. So they sent Damwon, and you guys saw how Damwon did at the World Championship. You know, they did absolutely atrocious. And then they almost lost the Game 5 against BDD's Yon when they were like 3-4K goal behind, but Battle decided, I don't want to go to Worlds. I want to stay at home and play Honkai Star Rail. That already exhausted a lot of that devil's magic. A lot of it. The key thing for me is, when we talk about devil's magic, the only thing that I think about when it comes to devil's magic is patches. Maybe Riot Games, in this case the devil's magic, really want T1 to make it. And Spirit Blossom, the patch, is very, very good for T1. Why? Because everything is going to be about bot lane. No more grubs, pattern the bot, fight around bot, snowball bot, get level 6 on your support, have a massive ultimate, like Bard ultimate, Renato ultimate, squeeze as much as you can in range. We have gone full circle back to, of course, 2023 meta, where there was Rift Herald, and all you did with support was get level 6 before minute 8, cross through mid, win the big fight, take the Herald. And now with the objectives spaced out and everything being around bot lane matchup, maybe they can find that groove again. But, right now they are so far from that groove. This Emperor got no groove because they don't even lane well. But maybe now with the commitment into Gumiyushi, maybe there's some potential there. Gilligan says, Casey wins spring and summer LEC. Anyone's Legend makes a deep run at MSI or Worlds. Gillian starts coaching 2026-2027 and gives Europe hope for international success. Casey wins spring and summer LEC. Well, there is a very, very clear opportunity to become super fucking dominant again. KC, I think that they have a very, very high floor. The team fighting is really good. I think that there are certain contexts where they play better in, and they can always kind of fall back on that. I think that KC definitely have a way higher floor than Fnatic. So if Fnatic don't perform and they give them opportunity to beat them, KC is the type of team to take it. I can see a world where this happens based off of, you know, the condition of G2. It's like, if KC wins spring and summer, it means that they have to beat Fnatic and, of course, G2. G2 looks insanely beatable, and Fnatic definitely can beat themselves. So I can see that. Anyone's Legend makes a deep run at MSI or Worlds. My main concern about Anyone's Legend is that I think that this team is very similar to KC in some ways, but less of a, let's say, mechanical ceiling in the context of LPL. Obviously, I think if Anyone's Legend played in the fucking LEC, they would be mechanically fucking insane. But what I mean is, I think that in order to win a championship, you also need to perform individually just as good as everybody else. And there's some opportunities to step up within LPL and also in of course, the World Championship. But it's hard for me to imagine that Anyone's Legend as a team will be able to keep up against teams that are equally disciplined to them. I do think that Anyone's Legend is insanely well coached, and I think in terms of concepts, they're super, super insane. But I think that when they meet their match on these things and they're playing against like top 3 build teams, like Genji, How Life, or whatever team is going to end up winning the LPL, right? I think this will be just the biggest challenge. I think that Tabe is really, really getting the most out of this player group. And I think that some of their individual players need to break some, you know, ceilings in terms of how good they are playing. They need to show some new mechanical ceilings in order for me to imagine them doing a deep run at MSI Worlds. And then Gilligan starts coaching. You know, I'd be high for Gilligan coaching. I think that, you know, the main thing I would love to see from Gilligan is that he needs to find a deep consistency in his own personal philosophy, because he has a lot of strong ideas, I just want to see Gilligan commit to something and holistically live that idea. And because I think that he, you know, through the law of attraction can definitely get a lot out of people in terms of their confidence levels. I can see a world where Gilius would be an effective coach. One day, Riot will make their esport a third party like ESL following the drop in hype of the franchise league. I fully agree. I fully agree. The angle, of course, is I think that all of the leagues are massive loss. You know, just loss leaders. Like they not even loss leaders. They just operate at a loss. And what's the potential gain in the future? It looks like an impossibility. In the past, Riot could write it off because at least they use it as an advertisement vehicle to, of course, you know, get money back through people playing the game and buying skins. And those are the metrics that will never be shared with us. But now that LEC is too costly, LCK is too costly, LTA is completely dying, I think that these leagues will stay, but they will be online leagues of teams that are not in the top 3. And I think the model we will move towards is that the major regions are going to be pretty much, you know, all of the teams that are not in the top 3. All the top 3 teams are going to be invited to tournaments that are being ran by TOs like ESL or anything else, EWC, or, you know, whoever has the money to, of course, run this. And we're going to see, bi-monthly competition of the best, teams on paper in the world. And then maybe you have like one team qualifying from each of these regions that I said. And then you just have a tournament with automatically T1, Genji, How Alive, KC, Koi, and G2 or Fnatic, whoever you want to choose. And then you have like FlagQuest and Team Liquid and C9. They're already in the league. And then basically the regional leagues are going to be more used for, player development. And then you have already, guaranteed international competition with the best of the best, similar to, of course, the CSGO structure. Because at least you put the burden on, of course, the TOs to run the tournaments. And I think that they can do a much, much better job of running tournaments and making a circuit that makes a lot of sense. The main thing here is that I don't know if Riot's going to wait out the franchise teams or if they're going to, pay them off. We already see like in the LPL where LPL is like, yo, the bottom 6 teams that are in Nirvana group, we want you out of the league. We're putting your games on Monday morning when nobody gives a fuck. 2 teams get eliminated from summer. They're trying to give as many incentives as possible for these teams to just fuck off. They want to limit the league to some top-end teams. And I think a world where as things proceed, I think the franchise system will dissolve, because I think it is a failure, because the point was to make everything financially stable. It is not stable. If Koi can make an event, if Casey can make an event, if there are TOs and organizers that can make massive events and massive competition, I think this is the way to move forward. I think this is the future. This guy, predicting world's winners and MVPs for the next 5 years. Season 15, Weibo Gaming, Xiaohu MVP. Team Liquid, APA MVP. Season 16. Season 17, K-Corp, Kalist MVP. Season 18, T1, Poby MVP. Season 19, RNG, APA MVP. You know, when libertarians say that all drugs should be legal and, it will, limit criminal behavior because people will find a way to get access to things and whatever. I think people like this is the counter argument, because this person should be restricted from all access to anything. Ben Hughes says, Anivia will become a high prior pick in pro play this year. Interesting. Well, Road of Ages being strong is definitely like a signal. Road of Ages getting nerfed on the Spirit Blossom patch. We saw Anivia being played in a couple of moments. The main issue Anivia has is that she's not the greatest against traditional mages. There's definitely certain pockets where she's great in. Like when Caps picked it against Vladdy's Rise. That was fucking brilliant. And Draven. And, playing it into Scion too. All of those elements were fucking wonderful. I think that was really, really good. We saw Kingen absolutely smurf his face off with Anivia a couple of times. We even saw Nako smurf on Anivia. There's definitely spots where Anivia warps games completely. I think this champion is super, super powerful. But there's more games where she's weaker in than she's strong in. So to see that she's going to be high prior pick, I think that's kind of a stretch because still the longer range mages like Azir are going to be decent into her. But I do think Anivia is underrated, and I could see a world where she gets picked more. That's it for the predictions. If I should make some of my own, I do think I agree with the man saying, about the everything moving towards, a tournament format, where we're going to move ourselves away from franchising. I think that we are currently, everything is bubbling up towards the point where, the league will reach like a breaking point. Because right now, I think as humans and as people that interact with entertainment, we hold on to nostalgia. We want our time to be invested in something that will last. And I think the moment you don't feel that same level of continuity from the casters, co-streamers, from even the players and the teams that are involved, there is going to be very few things that keep you tethered. Because in a game that is ever changing and everything is always new, the nostalgia factor is not there. If you compare it to, for example, Counter-Strike is very easy to tune into. They're playing the same maps as they played in 1.6 or Go or Source, whether it's Nuke or Inferno or Dust 2. The gunplay is very similar. It's very easy, even though I didn't play for 15 years, to just hop in and understand where we're at. The rounds are very, very condensed, and the excitement and the thrill is a clear build-up to an engagement and a fight, and then reset, start over. Very easy to tune into. League of Legends as a game is a very, very big investment of time in order to understand the nuance. So where do people take their enjoyment from? The World Championship is the best example. All the storylines that they are building, all those intros with Faker in particular, T1 winning the World Championship. There's a lot of things that have gone so right for League of Legends that have kept the popularity at an all-time high, whether it was the DRX Cinderella story and T1 losing in a final, and then T1 winning Worlds, and then T1 winning Worlds again. It needs to be attractive to the casual. And right now, what is attractive to the casual are the things that they can recognize. And I don't know what's going to happen post a point where Faker no longer plays, where Kato loses interest, or Kameto loses interest, or let's say Doinbi in China loses interest, Deshai loses interest, Rookie retires. There are certain names that carry so much weight, and when these people move on, I don't know what is going to happen. It already happened with Ibai, right? Ibai, massive name, of course, passed the torch to people within his org, but Ibai is, less in tune with what's happening on the league side, which is understandable. He follows his interests, and I'm sure that he has a lot of things that keep him busy. But what happens when this happens for more and more people? What happens when Faker retires? And that to me is the biggest concern. Because Riot now need to use League of Legends as the caterpillar that will breathe life into the butterfly that is the next generation, next game that they can bring people into. Because over time, with any game like League of Legends, over years, the biggest challenge is how do you keep it fresh? How do you keep it inviting to new players? But the longer a game goes on, the less inviting it is for new players to play. That's always the case with online PvP games. That's it for the predictions. Do you have any predictions of your own? Maybe put them in the chat or in the comments below. If you like this video, leave a like or leave a dislike. Interact with the video, because YouTube is like, oh, wow, they interact with your video. Your video is so great. I'm going to show it to other people. And that's the algorithm for you. And if you want to support me through the algorithm. Appreciate that. Catch you on the Flippy Flop. Peace.
Pakistan's defense minister humiliated on CNN after failing to provide proof on downed Indian jets. Okay, here we go.
Pakistan's Defense Minister Khawaja Mohammad Asif was humiliated in the global media after he failed to provide evidence of his claim that Pakistan shot down 5 Indian jets and a drone in retaliation to India's strike on Pakistan, Kashmir.
You've just brought up the fact that India lost some fighter jets, so let's be quite clear about this. Pakistan claims it shot down 5 Indian Air Force jets and a drone, as I understand it. India says there's no evidence of that, no proof. So can you provide more detail? Hold on. Can you provide more detail? And is this the response that your army spokesman threatened, or is there further action to come? Let's start with this very specific allegation of 5 fighter jets shot down.
So they're saying that they shut down 5 Indian fighter jets, and this is the thing that apparently was total bullshit.
Evidence for that, sir?
It's all over the social media, on Indian social media, not on our social media. The debris of these jets fell into Indian occupied Kashmir.
So they found it on. So it was on. I mean, if you're the defense minister, I don't understand this. Like, wouldn't you know better than social media? Like,
it's all over Indian media today.
You're the defense
and they
minister.
have admitted their media has...
The reason to talk to you today, sir, it's not to talk about content all over social media. I'm sorry. It's not to talk about content all over social media. I'm asking you very specifically.
Oh, God.
Online commentators blasted the misstep with this person.
They are relying on social media as a source of information about what their own military is doing? What the fuck is going on?
And saying they are relying on social media as the source of information about what their own military has done. Wow. This commentator agreed, saying a laughing comedy show is going on. Who has made him the defense minister of Pakistan?
That's a good question.
And the situation was made even more bizarre after it was revealed that CNN published an article saying French intelligence confirmed Pakistan downed the French-made Rafale warplane that was being used by the Indian military. However, in another twist, the Times of India are saying the article is fake, despite the world's media reporting on the downed craft. The alleged retaliatory strikes...
Well, I mean, can't you just figure out if it's fake instantaneously by looking for news articles that were posted with the same image? Like, I mean, isn't this, like, instantly easy to find, whether it's fake or not? I mean, I don't even understand. How is this even, how is this even a conversation? Yeah, you use Google Lens. You could just go and reverse image search. There's a million ways to do this.
By Pakistan came
it's a 20-minute investigation tops. It's like 2 minutes. Because, like, people do this all the time.
India struck what they referred to as terrorist locations in Pakistan-held Kashmir yesterday.
So this one, I think, apparently was fake as well.
And the intensification of this conflict is making the world very nervous because both nations have nuclear weapons, says podcaster Patrick Bet-David.
Why don't you tell me the Islamic Kalima? They don't have it. Boom, kill them. Now, why does this matter? Because when you think about the top countries in the world with the most nuclear arsenal, you know where Pakistan and India are? Neck and neck. 1/6 place, which is India with 172. The other is 170. And by the way,
that's a lot.
Do you know how a Pakistani official just responded to Al Jazeera named Faisal Kundi? You know what he said about nuclear weapons? Listen to this. Our nuclear bombs are not meant to be displayed in museums.
Oh, jeez. Oh, jeez.
We will use them if attacked by India. All is fair in love and in war. He said this on April 30th. Today's the attack by India this could escalate like this. And the reason why this has happened, a lot of people are talking about going back to, hey, when you think about, is this like a World War III possibility? Because we can't have those two guys go at it. Or is this more like Cold War, what happened where Russia was communism and they were behind all the Korean War, Vietnam War, all the, you know, even some of the war that was happening with
if the Pakistani army has no association with terrorism, why are they risking war with India over the elimination of a bunch of terrorists? If the Pakistani army has no association with terrorism, then why are Pakistani army generals at funerals for terrorists? I mean, this is an interesting question. But it's not really a question. Everybody knows the answer to this question. It's obvious.
Iran-Contra, they're behind of it? Or is this more like, in this situation, China's behind everything because they're instigating Pakistan? Is U.S. all of a sudden going to get involved with this? Russia's kind of involved because they got a very good relationship with India. 60% of the military equipment that India uses, they bought from Russia, and 40% of the oil that Russia sells, India is the customer. So there's a very interesting dynamic going on here.
CNN reporter Nick Robertson agrees, explaining Pakistan's government are not letting this go.
Yeah, we've heard a lot from government officials today, defense minister, the military officials speaking, and the prime minister. And the prime minister been on TV quite a lot, having a meeting with his National Security Committee, speaking to Parliament. But he gave an address to the nation a couple of hours ago. It was pretty kind of emotive stuff. And it was very clear. This is still headed
If they have no connection to terrorists, they should help India investigate them in the country. Yeah, I mean, it would logically make sense that if you have a terrorist cell in your country, that you would want to, like, because if it's a terrorist cell that is dangerous, then it would logically make sense that the highest level of risk would be the people that are around that cell in your country. Like, they're the ones that are the immediate risk. I mean, maybe that's just me.
The very clear potential for escalation. He said, India has to pay. The blood of our martyrs will be avenged. The